Chapter 6:11. Everyone was attracted by the white light and didn't notice that their boss had disappeared. What is this thing? It can't be another terrifying monster, right? It doesn't seem like it. I feel like there is a figure inside. Human? Everyone exchanged words with each other. However, everyone took out the weapons in their hands in case something unexpected happened. After all, they were already terrified. When the white light disappeared, the 30,000 men gulped and their eyes were filled with amazement. Standing on the sand dune was a woman. This woman was wearing a white robe, and her long hair hung down to her shoulders. Her eyebrows were like the crescent moon, and her eyes were like cold stars. On her forehead, there was a plum blossom mark, which added to her cold and elegant aura. Her face alone was already extremely beautiful. Not to mention her arrogant figure, it was enough to make people drool. Everyone seemed to have forgotten about the previous battle as they stared at the woman who had suddenly appeared. The aura she exuded was like that of a high and mighty fairy. Li Hun clenched her fists and slowly closed her eyes. In his heart, he muttered, "Is this a rebirth? Seems like I have really revived. Heart of loyalty. Chen Jin. You two bastards actually joined hands to kill me. I will settle this score with you slowly. Dan Exin, I was blind to fall in love with you. Bastard." Everyone realized that there was something wrong with this woman's aura. The entire surface of the sand was shaking, and a terrifying resentment was emitted from the woman's body. Li Hun abruptly opened her bloodshot eyes and shouted, "Not a single man is a good man. Go to hell." Soul Receding Soul raised his hands, and a terrifying spirit pressure appeared in his palms. 1,000 crimson smoke. The red spiritual energy condensed in his palms immediately pounced toward the 30,000 people present. Everyone cursed out loud. Why did women like to say this? Who the F***ck provoked you? Who should you go and find? It smells so good. It's quite fragrant. It feels like Chanel No. 5. A strange fragrance drifted among the 30,000 people. Everyone's eyes became dazed and even intoxicated. Holy shit! The giant scorpion is here again. Centipede. Centipede. Serpent. F***ck. The 30,000 players immediately started attacking each other. In their eyes, their opponents were those terrifying mutated animals. This was somewhat similar to Absolute Heaven's hypnosis. However, Soul Detachment's hypnosis was not hypnosis. It was an illusion. Looking at the 30,000 men gradually falling at her feet, Soul Leaving Soul felt refreshed both physically and mentally, and her delicate body disappeared on the spot. A light breeze blew past, and 300,000 Sky Wrath disappeared just like that. Even the last 30,000 Sky Wrath had fallen. As the wind howled, the corpses were gradually covered or eaten by animals that rushed over. Everything returned to normal, as if nothing had happened. However, the cigarette butts beneath Yi Hua's feet were already piled up. In the end, Donghuang Baiji still walked out and said tenderly, "Ye Hua, don't wait anymore, I reckon that he won't be coming." Yi Hua was angered to the point that the hand that was holding the cigarette was trembling. "I have even thought of my lines, and you guys actually stood me up. Motherf***ker. You are making fun of me." In actuality, Yi Hua didn't intentionally go and feel the spiritual energy fluctuation, and was just waiting leisurely, not knowing what was going on. "Lai Gu. Let's go and take a look at where those people are." Yi Hua threw away the cigarette butt in his hand and said anxiously. Lai Gu stepped out of the barrier, seemingly wanting to change back to his original form. Seeing Lai Gu's action, Wei Chong immediately knew what Lai Gu wanted to do and coughed hurriedly. Lai Gu nearly forgot that his honor's wife had seen my original form before. If I were to reveal my original form right now, his honor would definitely stew me. In actuality, Lai Gu was just trying to act cool earlier, and something almost happened to him. This isn't something that can be solved by kneeling on a keyboard. Lai Gu disappeared on the spot, and not long later, he returned. Standing in front of Yi Hua, Lai Gu said respectfully, "Your honor, they are all dead." Yi Hua. Motherf***ker. Didn't we agree to attack Voidless Realm? All of them actually died on the way here. Do you guys even have any sincerity? Sure enough, humans are a bunch of untrustworthy people, causing me to sit here foolishly for a few hours, and even smoked a few packs of cigarettes. Yi Hua slowly stood up, patted off the cigarette ash on his body, then walked into the barrier. While looking at his subordinates, he said gravely, "Whose F***king idea was this? To make me sit outside and get blown by the wind for a few hours?" Qingye said helplessly, "Yihua, don't curse in front of a child." All of Yihua's subordinates immediately pointed their fingers at Dou Fusher. Dou Fusher had a stupefied look on his face. "Why is it my fault again?" Yihua said gravely, "Seems like newbies need to be taught properly." All of Dou Fusher's subordinates revealed out an evil smile, then shouted out, "Subordinate obeys." Dou Fusher felt as if he was struck by lightning. "Your Honor, just a few days ago you said that I did a good job and the suggestion that you gave me was great. Why did it become like this? It really isn't my fault, Your Honor. Save me." Yihua brought along his wife and son and left. With a sinister smile on his face, Lai Gu looked at Dou Fusher and said, "Dou Fusher, this is the result of being in the limelight." Yi Zizi pouted her mouth. "Sigh, this should be the result of recklessly coming up with idea. It's fine if Your Honor is satisfied, if not, then you're finished." Brett laughed lightly. "It seems like my mood has become much better recently. If not, I wouldn't be laughing." Zishan smiled sweetly. "Fusher, little friend, a loose tongue causes trouble. You have to be more careful in the future." Only now did Dou Fusher understand a principle. If His Honor asks a question, if you don't have 100% confidence in answering, don't ever answer. If not, you will be out of luck. His Honor is simply temperamental. "Big brother, big sister, be gentler, don't hit my face, I still haven't recovered from the last time." Dou Fusher obediently held onto his head and squatted down. Sun Fong laughed lightly. "Just because you called me big sister, I'll just pat your head." This time, Dou Fusher learned his lesson. Last time, he called me big brother and big sister. But now, he called me big brother and big sister. Being in this team is like training one's mind. Yun Lang raised his arrogant head, seemingly saying, "You are truly too young, you dare to say anything." After this incident, Dou Fusher no longer dared to recklessly bring up any suggestions. When I patted Colonel Jin's head, I actually got lightly brushed by Erha's tail. "Damn it, sooner or later, I will stew you into a bowl of dog meat soup and let you show off." Right now, in Wang Debao's villa, the three people who disappeared were currently sitting on the sofa and eating instant noodles while looking at if you are the one with a smile on the corner of their mouths, as if they didn't care about anything at all. After drinking the soup, Qing Tiandi placed down the instant noodles in his hand, then took out a napkin and wiped his mouth, then said, "We are in the same group, there's no need to be restrained." "In the same group?" Bai Cixin asked confusedly. Zhou Yi knew about it, which was why he didn't say anything. Chapter 6:12. Bai Cixin thought that the Peace Association was a competitor, but she didn't expect that the Peace Association was just a chess piece in Qing Tian's hands. "Big brother Qing, why did you suddenly pull us back?" Wang Debao asked curiously. "Oh, a very powerful person came. If I didn't pull you guys back, you guys would probably die." Qing Tian folded the tissue and threw it into the trash can. Bai Cixin said confusedly, "A powerful person." "It's what I said last time." Qing Tian laughed lightly. Bai Cixin and Wang Debao turned pale with fright. Qing Tian did say that last time, but he also said that he was joking. How did it become real? Looking at the shocked look on everyone's faces, Qing Tian said faintly, "You guys have completed the mission well this time. Just say that Voidless Realm took those 300,000 heads. In any case, there are no survivors. You guys can say whatever you want." The corner of Zhou Ye's mouth twitched. What a vicious person, making something out of nothing. Bai Cixin became silent, because she originally wanted to live a good life with her husband after this matter is over. Wang Debao was also waiting for his wife's decision. As long as his wife says to withdraw, he will definitely not turn back. But right now, Bai Cixin was worried about Qing Tian. This temperamental man, I know too much about her and her husband, so how could he possibly let us go? It is normal for him to kill us to silence us. Then what should we do next? Bai Cixin let out a sigh of relief and asked. Wang Debao, who was at the side, revealed a disappointed look. "My wife is still not willing to let go. Is power really that tempting?" This time, Wang Debao misunderstood his wife. Bai Cixin didn't want her and her husband to be silenced. Qing Tian leaned on the sofa and laughed. "You guys just have to send out the news, you don't have to worry about anything else." "Yes." Zhou Yi replied respectfully. Yes. Bai Cixin could only agree, and Wang Debao nodded his head. Since my wife has made a decision again, I have to help her too. Within Voidless Realm, the two little fellows were originally unhappy, but they quickly recovered and continued to play. However, as a supreme overlord, Yi Hua was unable to recover from his shock. Originally, today was supposed to be a good day, everything had already been arranged, and all that was left was to wait for the actors to come onto the stage. Who would have known that all of them would die on the way here? They are truly too weak. Hubby, it's all right, don't be angry anymore. Qingya placed her hands onto her husband's shoulders and lightly massaged them. The Empress even sat at the side and peeled fruits for Yi Hua. The Empress looked just like she was coaxing a child. However, being served by the most beautiful woman in the world, Yi Hua felt slightly better. As expected, a woman's tenderness is the best thing to put out the fire. Looking at the gloomy expression on her husband's face, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji really wanted to laugh. Last night, they were still discussing their lines. They had even thought of the poses they should take. In the end, they were stood up today. How could they not be angry? Yi Hua, do you think that they will pin the crime on Voidless Realm? Donghuang Baiji peeled off the skin of the grape, then brought it to her husband's mouth. Yi Hua enjoyed the Empress's service and said gravely, "Of course I will." Just thinking about it made him feel uncomfortable. If he was the one who killed them, he definitely wouldn't say anything. But now, they were all dead before they could even reach him. He didn't even have the chance to act cool. Feeling that the other party had turned the tables, he was very unhappy. Thinking about how he had been sitting outside in the wind for a few hours, his mood became even worse. Then what is the purpose of them doing this? Donghuang Baiji asked curiously. However, in her heart, she wasn't too worried. My husband is so formidable, I only have to stand at the side and shout 666, then put on a look of worship. Don't men like their women to be like this? Then, I will just satisfy my husband. What else can it be? To make Voidless Realm the public enemy of the entire world. Qingya said eerily, and a cold flash could be seen flashing past her eyes. Voidless Realm is truly a group of people who harbor evil intentions. Become the public enemy of the entire world? Yi Hua didn't think of this point. If I really become the public enemy of the entire world, wouldn't there be even more people coming to die? I feel that Qingya's idea is pretty good. Then, let's just become the public enemy of the entire world. Let's gather tens of millions of people to come to Voidless Realm. These people are too bad, Donghuang Baiji shouted out. Yi Hua took a glance then said, "And they are too bad." Hubby, do you have any good ideas? Donghuang Baiji asked coquettishly. With such a powerful man protecting her, Donghuang Baiji naturally had to appear weak and frail so that her husband's vanity would soar. Yi Hua still didn't know that as long as they had a request, they would say husband to the left and husband to the right, and if they didn't have a request, they would call him Yi Hua, Yi Hua. Yes, Yi Hua said calmly, seeming as if everything was within his grasp, and he had an appearance of having the entire world in his hands. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji listened attentively. We just have to wait. The conspiracy will naturally appear. Yi Hua didn't want to take the initiative to attack. If he did that, he would seem very brainless. Are we going to wait for others to come up to us? Donghuang Baiji felt that her husband only wanted to show off, and he didn't care about anything else. Qingya understood Yi Hua very well. By remaining silent, Qingya could also be considered as supporting Yi Hua in disguise. Yi Hua said in a low voice, "No matter how big a conspiracy is, there will come a day where it will be exposed. Aren't the two of you curious?" That's right. This curiosity can only be filled with lives. In order to frame Voidless Realm, God raising heaven and earth used 300,000 lives. In actuality, in Yi Hua's eyes, this number of lives wasn't anything. In the past, he had seen people who were even more inhumane. There were even people who used the lives of millions of people to create weapons. Would Qingya and Donghuang Baiji still dare to resist Yi Hua? It was obviously impossible. In this family, Yi Hua's words were the law. However, on the second day, a ferocious storm immediately engulfed the entire world. This was a public criticism conference. And that was, Voidless Realm cruelly killed 300,000 people. Their methods were extremely ferocious. In the past, it was always kept a secret, and only the people within the circle of power would know about it. However, this time it was directly made public. In fact, a lot of people didn't even know what Voidless Realm was, and yet, they actually killed 300,000 people. This is too ferocious, right? The ignorant onlookers immediately pinned a big hat onto Voidless Realm. With just a crusade on the internet, such a ferocious place should have been burned down. However, this wasn't the end of targeting Voidless Realm. Among them, Voidless Realm's rule was exposed. Things like exterminating entire families at the drop of a hat, entrapping people at the drop of a hat. In any case, all of the bad things that happened in Voidless Realm were all reported. As for the good things that happened in Voidless Realm, there was even a photo of the Empress on the front page of every big news. This was the first time that the Empress's appearance was revealed to the public, and in an instant, she captured the hearts of countless men. She was too beautiful, she was simply too beautiful. Chapter 6:13. But could such a beautiful woman be that kind of executioner? All the men expressed their doubts. However, it was unknown who had actually released the video of the North-South martial arts competition, and it had even been edited to show the cruel side of the Empress to the world. Seeing the Empress order the execution of those who begged for mercy, everyone's hearts were filled with terror. Of course, there was also indignation. How could a woman have so much power? Who gave it to her? However, there were also a great many youths who were attracted by the Empress's cold figure. This was the true aloof goddess who would kill hundreds of people at the drop of a hat. In fact, she had even slaughtered hundreds of thousands. Too domineering. Of course, this was only the minority. Most of the people were calling to boycott Voidless Realm, and there were even some people who were shouting, "Get out of Voidless Realm." This trend was becoming more and more intense, to the point where Voidless Realm wanted to organize their people to attack Voidless Realm once again. When Voidless Realm heard that Voidless Realm was going to attack Voidless Realm quickly come out and surrender. A slogan of "Down with Voidless Realm" swept through the entire Voidless Realm. I have never heard of such an exceedingly ferocious organization before. Killing 300,000 people in one go. Oh my god. In ancient times, it was normal for two armies to clash, but times were different. 300,000 was a huge number of people. Right now, inside Voidless Realm, Yihua was currently holding onto his tablet and looking at his wife's figure. A feeling of vanity was currently lingering in his heart. This is my woman, the woman who acts like a spoiled child in my arms every day. You bunch of idiots. Qing Ya and Donghuang Baiji were also looking at the news report, and they were angered to the point that their faces were red. As the saying goes, good things don't go out the door, but outside news travels 1,000 miles. Baiji, this cover photo is not bad. It's beautiful. Too beautiful. I, the Supreme Overlord, am truly too happy. Yihua actually laughed out loud, and at this very moment, he wished that he could place the Empress on the bed and roll around with her. Donghuang Baiji rolled her eyes at her husband. Why is he still thinking about these things at a time like this? Yihua said with a smile. Look at this posture of giving the order, this expression of yours. You are really giving me face. Baiji, well done. Very good. Alright, this seems to be the first time that Yihua is praising his wife. And furthermore, it is an important praise. Qingya expressed that she was unhappy. Why aren't you praising me? We are both your wives. Aren't you being too biased? However, Qingya was thinking in her heart, in the future, I will also do something to make my husband praise me, and make my husband feel proud of me. Perhaps, Yihua didn't know that by praising the Empress, he had allowed Qingya to walk down the path of being praised. Perhaps Donghuang Baiji was infected by Yihua. Donghuang Baiji looked at her own photo, then held onto her face and said, So ugly. Qingya poked onto the Empress's forehead and said with a smile, If you are ugly, how am I supposed to live? Qingya, you are much prettier than me. How is she beautiful? Look at our husband. He loves your cold and arrogant look. Really? Why do I feel that my husband likes your gentle look? Yihua squinted his eyes and took a look. Woman, hee. Sure enough, they all had the heart to compare. Yihua took a look at the news report and felt that it was pretty good. Scolding is everywhere. This feels great. I am very happy. I just don't know if they dare to make a move. Should I help them? This question. Seeing that her husband was in deep thought, the two women asked curiously, Yihua, what are you thinking about? Oh, nothing much. Right now, we have already become the target of a crusade. Sigh, Dong Huang Baiji let out a light sigh. Originally, Voidless Realm's existence was to protect the North, but in the end, they were framed to such a state. It would be a lie if you say that it isn't painful. If Father were to find out about this, he would definitely jump up and beat me up. Thinking back to the past, ever since Voidless Realm and Yihua buried the hatchet, Voidless Realm began to fall, and I also fell along with it. This bad man, he only knows how to lead his wife astray, to the point that even I like to act cool now. Look at this cover, it is so cool. As expected, I won't let my husband lose face. Qingya was a bit envious. I have to think of a way to become famous as well. How can I become famous? Yihua laughed lightly. This can also be considered to be entering the international stage, although this reputation isn't that good. Then, are we still going to sit here and wait? Qingya asked curiously. Could it be that your majesty still wants to take the initiative to attack? Or are you trying to wash away the suspicion? No matter how you explain yourself now, it will be useless. You can be considered to be wearing the cruel hat. Yihua said lightly. In actuality, this is also good. No one wants to be the bad guy. I, the Supreme Overlord, don't mind being the bad guy. Dong Huang Baiji was just saying it. She naturally understood the logic behind it. You two continue chatting. I will go back and take a look at Zhu Tian. After finished speaking, Yihua disappeared. This is truly convenient. I saved quite a bit of money on the bus fare. The poorest Supreme Overlord in history. Returning back to Leisure Bar, Yihua walked into Yu Tong's room. Yi Zizi was eating chicken every day, and Zhu Tian was still lying in Yi Zizi's embrace. Is Zhu Tian feeling a bit better? Yihua sat on his sister-in-law's bed and asked. Your Honor, wait a moment, the final circle is about to begin. Yihua shook his head. Right now, Yi Zizi's gaming addiction is quite big. Originally, Yi Zizi was about to finish eating chicken every day, but for some reason, her head was shot by an AWM. Even Yi Zizi herself was stupefied. I was actually killed by a sniper. Yi Zizi hurriedly switched to death replay. I was actually killed at such a far distance. Fuck, he is definitely a cheater. Pouting her small mouth, Yi Zizi conveniently pinched Zhu Tian's ear to vent her anger. Zhu Tian, who had fainted for so long, had already been pinched by Yi Zizi. This fellow's injuries are more or less healed, and he should be waking up soon. However, it might take a very long time for him to recover his strength. Yi Zizi said with a grin while pinching onto Zhu Tian's neck. Meanwhile, Zhu Tian was currently like a dead cat. His 4 limbs were powerless. Give him to me. Yihua took the opportunity to pinch onto Zhu Tian's neck. He decided to return Zhu Tian to them so that Brett wouldn't come over to ask about the situation from time to time. Pinching onto Zhu Tian's neck, Yihua arrived at Dongfang family. There was actually no one in the main hall. Sensing Brett's aura, Yihua reckoned that Brett should be in the backyard. When Yihua arrived at the backyard, he went into a slight daze. Dongfang Yuaner and Guan Yanxin could be seen carefully teaching Brett how to prune branches, and Brett was also very serious. To think that Brett would actually have such a moment, the power of love is truly great. Cough. Yihua coughed lightly. The 3 beautiful women were startled for a moment, and soon after, they shouted out respectfully, Your Honor! Catch. Yihua tossed Zhu Tian. The pitiful Zhu Tian drew an arc in the air, and Brett hurriedly hugged onto Zhu Tian and shouted out coquettishly, Your Honor! Zhu Tian, who was in a coma, would often be tossed around by people, and in the future, he would be in an even more miserable state. Chapter 6:14. After Yihua left, Dongfang Yuaner, who was at the side, asked curiously, This? Brett stroked Absolute Heaven's fur and said with a light smile, This is Absolute Heaven. Ah! Guan Yanxin cried out in surprise. They had never seen Zhu Tian's original body before. She never thought that the man she liked was actually a cute kitten. So cute. Dongfang Yuaner did not feel anything at all. There were even skeletons in the team. Compared to them, Absolute Heaven was much more adorable. Brett also smiled sweetly and said, Yeah, I've never hugged him before. So obedient. I want a hug too. Guan Yanxin said from the side. Zhu Tian usually had a cold expression on his face, causing Guan Yanxin to not dare to tease him. Now, she finally had the chance to bully him. Brett was much more magnanimous now, and he passed the cat version of Absolute Heaven to Guan Yanxin. Guan Yanxin hugged it in her arms and exclaimed that it was so cute. As for absolute heaven waking up at that time, that would be truly despairing. He would be abused by these 3 women. Yi Hua returned back to Leisure Bar once again, and was preparing to make a Chinese jianbing to eat. However, when he walked to the entrance of the alley, he didn't see the auntie selling jianbing, and suddenly, he thought of something. Could it be that Wu Li had gone? You didn't listen to my advice? Standing at the entrance of the alleyway, Yi Hua let out a breath. If this Wu Li really left, I reckon that he wouldn't be able to come back. As for aunties, perhaps I won't be able to eat that hot fruit pancake anymore. At this time, the auntie was still waiting for her child to come home. She had been away for a few days, and logically speaking, she should be back soon. In order to wait for her son to come back, the aunt didn't go to set up her stall for the past few days. However, the more she waited, the more anxious she felt. As the days passed by, the old lady also saw the news. Voidless Realm had actually massacred 300,000 people. Although I don't know what Voidless Realm is, I recognize the woman who appeared on the television. Isn't that young man's wife? He had even bought some pancakes from his stall. The middle-aged woman did not think that this woman was a heinous person. She wondered if the report was wrong. After seeing that so many people had died, the big aunt also felt that the world had changed, and it didn't seem like a complete world anymore. It was too cruel. Ding dong. Ding dong. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. The auntie paused, and a smile appeared on her face. It seemed that her son had returned. This isn't right. My son should have the key. Why would he press the doorbell? The middle-aged woman walked to the door, still very vigilant. Who is it? Standing outside was the man who had received the suicide note back then. It had been a few days since he had delivered it. This feeling was really not good, especially when he saw the lifeless eyes of the other party's family members. Moreover, this family was the family of a squad leader. I'm here to deliver a letter, the man shouted from outside. The auntie was even more confused. Were there still people delivering letters in this day and age? Could he be a swindler? That's why he wouldn't open the door. Leave or I'll call the police. The middle-aged woman shouted. Auntie, it's your son's letter, the man shouted again. The middle-aged woman didn't believe it. Her son had never sent a letter. My son will call me if he needs anything. The man let out a light sigh. I can't bear to say that this is a will, but at the very least, I have to hand this will over to the other party. Auntie, this is your son's will. A will. The middle-aged woman was shocked. She didn't care if the man was a scammer or not. She opened the door and said, What did you say? How could my son write a will? The man first bowed to the middle-aged woman, then handed over the letter with both of his hands. Auntie, my condolences. The middle-aged woman's gaze stared fixedly at the pure white envelope. She stretched out her trembling right hand, and a bad premonition emerged from the bottom of her heart. Auntie, Captain Wu sacrificed himself for peace and justice, please. The man said gravely, but he wasn't able to finish what he wanted to say. The middle-aged woman didn't hear what the man said at all. Her trembling hand tore open the envelope, took out the letter inside, and slowly opened it. At the bottom left corner of the letter, there was even a blood stain. Dear mother, if you read this letter, it means that your son is no longer able to fulfill his filial duties. I'm sorry. When the middle-aged woman saw this line of words, the middle-aged woman felt that the world was spinning, and the man hurriedly held on to her. The middle-aged woman sat on the ground paralyzed. Looking at the words that her son wrote, her tears wetted the letter one by one. When the middle-aged woman finished reading the letter, a mournful wail suddenly broke out. Son! My son, why did you leave your mother alone? The middle-aged woman shouted in pain as she pounded on her chest. The man took a deep breath and squatted down. Auntie, I'm sorry. The middle-aged woman grabbed onto the man's shoulder and shouted out miserably. Tell me, how did my son die? I beg you to tell me. Auntie, you should have seen the report on the news. Captain Wu is inside the report. Captain Wu sacrificed himself for the sake of righteousness. Auntie, you should be proud of your son. No. I don't want to be proud. I only want my son back. Return my son back to me. The middle-aged woman was completely confused as she shook the man with all of her might. Towards this kind of situation, the man had encountered it before, and thus, he comforted the middle-aged woman properly. Auntie, quickly enter the house. The middle-aged woman shouted out while crying, That is my son's corpse. Where is his corpse? I'm sorry, everyone's corpse was buried in that desert. After finished speaking, the man turned around and left. At the moment when the elevator door closed, the man heard even more miserable wails coming from outside. Perhaps Yi Hua still didn't know about this matter, but back then, he also advised Wu Li to just properly accompany the middle-aged woman and not think about other things. Unfortunately, between happiness and despair, Wu Li still chose despair, and left his old mother alone. On this day, Yi Hua was currently teaching his son how to wield a sword. The little fellow, Yi Yan, had also grown a bit taller, and the sword that he was holding onto was even longer than him. Hold on to the sword firmly, Yi Hua shouted out gravely. Yi Yan's gaze was very firm. Even though his hands were trembling, he was still holding onto the sword's hilt tightly. Dong Huangli, who was at the side, appeared very calm, looking as if she had been abused by her mother. Yi Hua took a sip of tea, his gaze was calm, and he had the appearance of a strict father. Qing Ya and Dong Huang Baiji sat at the side and began learning how to knit a sweater. From time to time, they would turn around and look at their child, and a smile could be seen on the corner of their mouth. This kind of life sure is warm. Right at this moment, Yi Hua received Wei Chang's voice transmission. After hearing it, Yi Hua's brows wrinkled. Auntie actually came to the bar. This has never happened before in the past. Could it be that? Yi Hua, what's the matter? Qing Ya and Dong Huang Baiji felt the change in their husband. After all, it was very rare for Yi Hua to frown, and as long as he frowned, it would be a big matter for him. Thus, the two women became confused. Yi Hua took a deep breath. Auntie came to the bar. Auntie? Is it the auntie who sells crepes at the alley entrance? Qing Ya asked tenderly. Towards humans kowtowing to him, Yi Hua had always felt very comfortable in his heart. However, at this moment, Yi Hua was extremely displeased, and an evil aura gushed out from his chest. A desolate scene froze in front of them. A woman was kneeling in front of a young man with her head lowered. The sky was still pouring, and it was getting heavier and heavier. It landed on the ground with a rustling sound. Yi Hua tightened his grip on the umbrella and said in a low voice, "I'm sorry." This was Yi Hua's first time apologizing to a human, and this was also Yi Hua's last time apologizing to a human. The rainstorm was still continuing, and the auntie slowly stood up. Without taking another look at Yi Hua, the auntie turned around and walked towards the entrance of the alleyway, and the clothes that she was wearing were instantly drenched by the rainstorm. At this moment, Qing Ya and Dong Huang Baiji also jogged out of the house. The two of them leaned against Yi Hua's side and looked at that lonely and desolate back view of Yi Hua, all the way until Yi Hua disappeared from their sight. The pain of losing her son caused the auntie to lose her motivation to live. Yi Hua stood there for a very long time, and Qing Ya and Dong Huang Baiji also accompanied the auntie for a very long time. The two of them were able to sense the emotions that their husband was currently feeling, and they knew that his mood was definitely not good. Let's go in. After a long time, Yi Hua said unhurriedly. After walking into the bar, Yi Hua sat beside the bar counter, and Blood Demon hurriedly poured a cup of wine for Yi Hua. Yi Hua had always been a person who took small sips of wine, but today, he took a sip of wine. However, all of this was because of a human auntie. Qing Ya and Dong Huang Baiji sat beside their husband and accompanied him attentively. Yi Hua let out a breath, then said while wrinkling his brows, "This auntie is the first person who dares to reprimand me. No, there are a lot of people who reprimand me, but all of them are dead. This auntie is the only one who made me." Speaking up to here, a ray of red light flashed past Yi Hua's eyes. Who am I to blame for all of this? Peace Association, Justice Alliance, or Wu Li himself, or even me? Hearing this, Blood Demon was also extremely shocked. That auntie actually dares to reprimand his honor. That auntie is actually still alive. That auntie actually dares to reprimand his honor. Yi Hua laughed lightly. However, this laughter contained a bit of self-mockery. The crepes that this auntie makes is the most fragrant that I have ever eaten. And she is also rather stingy. Every time, she would still charge me money. Doesn't she know that me eating at your place is already giving me a lot of face? And she actually still dares to charge me money. Yi Hua smiled and drank another mouthful of wine. Only now did Qing Ya and Dong Huang Baiji realize that the position of auntie in their husband's heart was actually quite high. This was for sure. If not, Why would Yi Hua help a human to teach his son a lesson, and even advise the human not to send his son to die? Xianba listened to Xianba's advice, but that Wu Li didn't. After drinking a few cups of wine, Yi Hua took a deep breath and said, "This aunt is my first friend, and she might also be my last friend." After finished speaking, Yi Hua stood up and walked towards the stairs. "I need to take a nap." Blood Demon lowered his head and remained silent. So his honor is still so emotional. Qing Ya and Dong Huang Baiji understood their husband even more deeply. So Yi Hua actually has such a side to him. I really didn't expect this. The two women followed Yi Hua upstairs, opened the bedroom door, and saw that Yi Hua was already lying on the bed. The two women didn't feel embarrassed. They took off their clothes, snuggled into their husband's embrace, and comforted him. That night, Yi Hua had a dream. In the dream, the auntie was still selling crepes at the entrance of the alleyway, and the auntie's face that was filled with wrinkles still had that same smile on it. And that auntie was looking at him. The next morning, the rainstorm outside had already stopped, and the sound of raindrops could still be heard coming from the eaves of the house. Yi Hua opened his eyes and returned back to his usual demeanor, then lightly hugged onto his two wives. After hearing that, Yi Hua let out a light chuckle. Two snorts. "Hubby, why don't you sleep for a while longer?" Qing Ya asked tenderly. "That's right, you woke up so early." Dong Huang Baiji asked lightly with her beautiful eyes closed. Yi Hua said faintly, "I woke up to buy breakfast for you too, at the entrance of the alleyway." Speaking of the entrance of the alleyway, Yi Hua recalled what happened yesterday. Qing Ya and Dong Huang Baiji, who were in Yi Hua's embrace, immediately opened their beautiful eyes. Dong Huang Baiji said tenderly, "Hubby, I will go and make breakfast for you." The two of us will make breakfast together. You go and sleep first." After finished speaking, the two women got up and went to prepare breakfast. Meanwhile, Yi Hua lay on the bed for a while, then put on his clothes, went downstairs and walked out of Leisure Bar. Chapter 6:16. I almost can't recognize Yi Hua anymore. Dong Huang Baiji mumbled. In Dong Huang Baiji's heart, Yi Hua's style of doing things had always been iron-blooded, to the point where he wouldn't even give any face to his subordinates, let alone an auntie who was only selling Chinese crepes. Qing Ya said lightly, "Perhaps it's because we still don't know enough." In actuality, Qing Ya had known Yi Hua for a slightly longer time than Dong Huang Baiji. In Qing Ya's heart, Yi Hua was an extremely cold and indifferent man, and it was to the point that Qing Ya even had a kind of feeling that Yi Hua didn't like people. However, every time Qing Ya followed Yi Hua to the alleyway to buy breakfast, she would be able to feel that at that moment, Yi Hua would loosen up a bit. Perhaps, Yi Hua had treated this auntie as a relative, and only a relative would accept the other party's reprimand. Yi Hua, who walked out of Leisure Bar, looked towards the entrance of the alleyway, and his gaze immediately became serious. A familiar stall, and even that familiar back view. Yi Hua walked over with large strides. It was unknown what his mood was right now, but in any case, it was the kind that was very complicated. However, when he walked closer, he discovered that he had actually seen wrongly. This was indeed an auntie, but she was no longer the auntie from before. However, the cart was exactly the same. "Hey handsome, do you want one?" The woman selling pancakes turned her head and asked with a smile. Yi Hua's face sank, and soon after he shook his head. "No need." With the change of people, the popularity of the fruit pancake was also taken away. The woman smiled and said nothing. After a short while, Yi Hua asked, "What about the person who sold the medicine here earlier?" The woman turned around and smiled. "Oh, you mean Su Qin? She sold this tool to me. I heard she even sold her house. She seems to have returned to her hometown." Su Qin. So this aunt's name is Su Qin. After so many years, I only found out today that this name is very nice to hear. In the future, don't set up a stall at the entrance of this alley." Yi Hua shouted out coldly. The woman immediately wrinkled her brows, and when she came into contact with Yi Hua's bone-piercingly cold gaze, she immediately got a fright. Muttering that he was sick, she hurriedly pushed the cart and left. Yi Hua took out a stick of cigarette and looked at the familiar position. It was as if he could hear an auntie saying beside his ear, "Young man, you have to pay for the extra egg." After finishing smoking the cigarette, Yi Hua extinguished the cigarette. It seemed like he had also extinguished the past that was hard to come by. At the moment when Yi Hua turned around, Yi Hua was still that supreme overlord. Those who complied would still have a sliver of hope for survival. Rebel. He could only go to hell to repent. Yi Hua returned to the leisure bar, and Qing Ya and Dong Huang Baiji came out with congee with pork and century egg. It's still very hot. Qing Ya placed the breakfast in front of her husband. Yi Hua laughed lightly, then picked up the spoon and lightly shook it for a bit, then took a small bite. It was very comfortable. It turned out that his wife's cooking also tasted like this. After enjoying his wife's breakfast, Yi Hua returned back to Voidless Realm together with his wife. I feel that the taste of Leisure Bar has changed a bit. Without the Chinese crepes from the morning, Leisure Bar seems to be incomplete. As for what happened next, it was very simple. They just had to slowly wait for the matter to ferment, and the next time they would be greeted with utter pain and despair. I never joke around. It must be the deepest despair. 1 week's time passed by very quickly, and just like what Yi Hua had expected, the incident of killing 300,000 people had become more and more influential. The banner of eradicating evildoers had even been raised, and demonstrations had appeared all over the place. Voidless Realm had become the most searched term on the internet, and various foreign powers had also started investigating this mysterious Eastern organization. To think that they would actually be so cruel and ruthless. It was a pity that Voidless Realm was located in a desert, and the danger of that place was not something that ordinary people could deal with. Even the exact location of Voidless Realm was not something that could be obtained by ordinary people. Qing Tiandi liked this kind of effect a lot. The bigger the commotion, the better. Those old monsters shouldn't be able to sit and do nothing. After all, Voidless Realm is a good thing. Small world. This is a big treasure. Qing Tiandi took out his Nokia from his pocket and dialed a number with a smile on his face. When the call was connected, Qing Tiandi laughed. Brother Sin, it's me, Qing Tiandi. Let's meet? All right. Qing Tiandi continued to call. Brother Chu, it's me, Qing Tiandi. Let's meet? When? Chu Ying asked faintly. How about Tuesday? Qing Tiandi laughed. No, I have to go to work. You can't possibly work overnight, right? Let's do it on Tuesday night. Qing Tiandi laughed. Chu Ying remained silent for a while, then said, all right. Qing Tiandi continued to make the third call. Big Sister Jiao, it's me, Tian Tiandi. Let's meet up on Tuesday night. How about it? From the tone of the call, Qing Tiandi seemed to be a bit low profile. A ghost-like voice rang out from the phone. Tuesday night. I have an appointment with someone to play mahjong. Big Sister Jiao, we can play mahjong anytime about Voidless Realm. Jiao Ling remained silent for a while, then said faintly, all right, I'll cancel this game then. I'm really sorry. Qing Tiandi laughed. Jiao Ling responded and hung up the phone. Qing Tiandi continued playing mahjong. Brother Xiaotian, are you still cooking? Qing Tiandi heard the sound of the stove and the sound of the spatula ringing out from the phone. Sure, Xiaotian said impatiently. If you have something to fart, then say it. Let's meet up on Tuesday night. I'm not free. Don't worry, I won't disturb your brother Xiaotian cooking. However, right at this moment, the manager's scolding voice rang out from the phone, and even Qing Tiandi heard it. Sure, Xiaotian. How long do you take to cook? Do you not want to work anymore? Coming right away, coming right away. Sure, Xiaotian said gravely, let's talk about it when the time comes. Hearing the busy tone that came out from the phone, Qing Tiandi shook his head helplessly. These old monsters really can't sit still. I have to invite them one by one. Don't they know how to do it themselves? One is more and more crafty than the other. It is only I, Qing Tiandi, who is too naive. Right now, Li Hun, who had reincarnated, cut a man's neck, and a young lady was so frightened that she hid at the corner of the wall. There isn't a single good thing in men. Do you know? You have to rely on yourself. Li Hun shouted lightly towards the shivering young lady. Shaking off the blood on the knife, Li Hun walked out of the house. These few days, I have already killed a lot of men. Killing is especially satisfying. In any case, as long as I see other people being sweet and affectionate, I will know that that man definitely doesn't have good intentions. Kill. Seeing other people quarreling, scumbag. Kill. In any case, I am going to kill all the bad men in the world. Men are not good things. Other than lying to others, there is nothing else. Li Hun's current state of mind was the typical one that couldn't bear to see other people doing well. Why can other people be more fortunate than me? Just for the sake of satisfying myself by killing everyone. But right now, killing ordinary people is no longer enough to satisfy Li Hun's needs. Even though I am so strong, I have still been deceived by men. If I want to kill, I must kill strong men. That way I can save more women. Beauty, it is very dangerous for you to stand at the side of the road. Dou Fushi looked at Li Hun, who was in a daze, and shouted, "This woman is really beautiful." Chapter 6:17. Li Hun took a glance at Dou Fushi, then turned around and left. Why didn't he kill Dou Fushi? That was because Dou Fushi did not have a girlfriend by his side. If there was a girl by his side, Li Hun would definitely kill all the heartless men in the world. Dou Fushi should be glad that he does not have a girlfriend, right? However, after seeing Li Hun leaving, Dou Fushi did not have the intention to strike up a conversation with her. Dou Fushi's current action had undoubtedly saved his life once again. If he had gone to strike up a conversation with her just now, before he could even shout for help, he would have been killed by Li Hun. Dou Fushi had unintentionally saved his life twice. Dou Fushi, who turned around and left, muttered, "I did a divination today, and my life is in danger. Seems like I have to be careful and not get hit by a flower pot. I have to be careful when crossing the road, and not get hit by an electric bike. I am Dou Fushi, a gold raider. How can I die? Hee hee." In the blink of an eye, it was already Tuesday night. Qing Tian appeared on a street that was filled with midnight snacks, casually found a table outside and sat down, then began ordering. Although the world had changed, eating skewers for midnight snacks had never changed. Enjoying delicious food was a kind of enjoyment. "This streaky pork is not bad. Give me another 20 RMB. Qing Tian shouted. He felt that it was not bad. "Sure. Give me another case of beer." "Okay, coming right up." While eating the skewers, Qing Tian leisurely waited. Suddenly, a fat man sat down. This man's fat was not fat. He was muscular and sturdy. He was the chef Xiaofan. "Damn. Why did you call me here?" Xiaofan took out a bottle of beer and directly bit open the bottle cap with his teeth, then raised his head and started drinking. Then, he grabbed the skewers and started eating, causing the surrounding people to sigh, but they did not dare to do anything. This Xiaofan's physique was truly a bit scary. "Brother Xiaofan, don't be anxious, there are still a few people." Qing Tian smiled. Xiaofan snorted and continued eating. Not long later, a woman who wore a white big round hat and a noble white evening dress leisurely walked over, causing the surrounding men to be dumbstruck, and some even whistled. The woman didn't seem to mind. She even winked at the drunk men teasingly. "Sister Nine, you're here. Have a seat." Qing Tiandi was also very polite and personally set up a chair for Jiuling. Jiuling chuckled. "Heaven and earth, you're not stingy today." He made such a big move recently. How can he be stingy? Xiaofan picked his teeth with a bamboo stick. "I'm just acting as your vanguard." Just as he finished speaking, a bicycle stopped beside him. Chu-Ying arranged her tools and sat down with a smile. She didn't say anything. As soon as Chu-Ying sat down, a child carrying a school bag also sat down. "Brother Sin," Qing Tian called out with a smile. Children are sins. Although he looked like a child, he was actually very old. Du Zue put his bag aside and picked up the beef tendon to eat. "Qing Tiandi, why did you call us here?" Qing Tiandi didn't beat around the bush. "This little brother has already paved the path for you guys. Voidless Realm is just around the corner." Du Zue ate until the corner of his mouth was filled with grease. He didn't have the demeanor of an expert at all as he said vaguely, "You did so much just to force us to come out, right?" "Of course not. It's been a long time since we got together. Besides, everyone knows about the benefits of Voidless Realm. How could the four of them not know about it? A small world, if it grows up, it will become a big world, and they will be the master of that big world. How exciting would that be?" However, all experts wanted face, and without a good excuse, they didn't want to do something that would tarnish their reputation. And Qing Tiandi was going to pave the path for them, to openly fight their way into Voidless Realm. This was also the reason why Chu-Ying asked Jiu-Yi to do that, because that small world was truly too tempting. Jiuling said, "Qing Tiandi, What are you thinking of to trick us again? Sure, Xiaotian sneered. You're full of evil tricks, I won't believe you. Chu Ying's silence was Kim's philosophy. Big brother. Big sister, why don't you all believe in me, Qing Tiandi? If we manage to take down Voidless Realm, wouldn't it be good for us to be the masters of Voidless Realm? Qing Tiandi maintained a smile on his face. Just like what Shi Xiaotian said, he was full of evil tricks. Qing Tiandi, do you think that we don't know what you are planning? Du Zue took out a napkin and wiped his mouth, then casually threw the napkin on the ground. Seeing this action, Qing Tiandi wrinkled his brows, but he didn't say anything. Jiu Ling took out a pair of sunglasses from her bag. If I had known earlier, I would have gone to play mahjong. It's boring. I'll be leaving first. After finished speaking, Jiu Ling stood up and left. Shi Xiaotian drank another bottle of beer, then said, I'm going home to study the recipes. Du Zue carried his school bag and said lightly, I still have to go to school tomorrow. In an instant, 3 people left, and his first love was still sitting there. Qing Tiandi squeezed out a smile and said, Brother Chu, how about we work together? I still have to wake up early for work tomorrow. Bye-bye. Chu Ying stood up and left on her bicycle. Looking at Chu Ying's back view that was getting further and further away, the corner of Qing Tiandi's mouth twitched slightly. His smiling face slowly darkened, and a trace of viciousness flashed past his eyes. After a long while, Qing Tiandi also stood up and left. Boss, you still haven't paid the bill? The boss hurriedly chased after Qing Tiandi and wanted to stop him. Chapter 6:18. When do we make our move? Chu Ying asked in a low voice. Right now, everything was ready and they could make their move at any time. Du Zue looked towards the direction of Voidless Realm, then said, There is no time like the present. Since we have already come out, let's make our move tonight. Shi Xiaotian and Jiu Ling, who were at the side, nodded. Since they had already come out, they might as well finish what they had to do. Did they still have to choose an auspicious day? They didn't believe that. Meanwhile, in the middle of the desert outside of Voidless Realm, there was currently a bonfire, and there were a few people sitting around the bonfire. From time to time, those people would let out laughter. Wife, grill a chicken wing for me, right now. Yi Hong was rather manly. He was actually able to order Zishan, who was beside him, to grill a chicken wing for him. Zishan smiled gently and said, All right, I'll grill some chicken wings for you. LV Liang smiled at the side and didn't say anything. This is all because Zishan is giving me face. Once I go back, this little brother of mine will become a coward. Death Mage was sitting beside him. Sun Fong was not present today. After eating his wife's grilled chicken wings, Yi Hong sighed softly. Uncle Wei, why did you ask us to take turns to guard this place? Could it be that someone else is coming? Zishan took out a tissue and passed it to her husband. Yi Hong smiled as he took the tissue and wiped his lips. Zishan said, Uncle Wei might have also received his honor's order to prevent anyone from launching a sneak attack on us. Then, if someone is really going to launch a sneak attack on us, then his honor's prophecy is truly incredible. LV Liang sighed with emotion, and within his mind, his honor's tall and sturdy figure appeared, and a blazing heat could be seen emitting out from his gaze. Death Mage let out a cold laugh. His honor is a supreme overlord. How can we compare with his intelligence? There's nothing wrong with what Master Spellcaster said. Yi Hong said with a grin. The reason why his honor is able to lead such a powerful team is all because of his own capabilities. Zishan laughed. All of you are just a bunch of bootlickers. For example, I am his honor's brainless fan. His honor is so handsome. Facing his wife's limitless worship of his honor, Yi Hong asked curiously. Then, is his honor more handsome, or am I, your husband, more handsome? Zishan poked onto her husband's forehead unhappily. Aren't you talking nonsense? It's definitely because his honor is handsome. Yi Hong felt as though a sharp sword had stabbed into her chest. It was so painful. LV Liang laughed out loud. What you are doing is called masochism. I would never ask this kind of question, and yet, you are actually competing with his honor in terms of handsomeness. Little brother, you sure have guts. Yi Hong also discovered that she had misspoken. I actually became so arrogant that I want to compare my looks with his honor. I'm ashamed, ashamed. He silently prayed for his honor to spare his life. LV Liang took a look at the time. It was almost midnight. It's time to change shifts. That's right, it has been a long time since I last fought. If someone really comes, then hurry up and come. Zishan's hands were clearly a bit itchy. It was no longer interesting for her to abuse her husband at home every single day. Yihong said in a low voice, "Honey, haven't you hit me enough at night?" Zishan said casually, "If you are able to make my stomach become big, do you think that I would need to hit you?" "This isn't my fault," Yihong said embarrassedly. Speaking of which, it has already been a few months, but Zishan is still not pregnant yet. Could it be that it is that difficult for a deity to get pregnant? His honor's wives are already pregnant with their second child, and I didn't even get to see a single fart. Speaking of children, Zishan became angry. If it's not your fault, then whose fault is it? You aren't even willing to work overtime. I'm just worried about you. What worried about me? From what I see, you just don't want to have children. When did I? Look. You aren't even irritated anymore. The husband and wife immediately started scolding each other. Zishan was the main attacker, while Yihong was the one who explained. Death Mage and LV Liang turned around and shook their heads helplessly. Death Mage thought to himself, "Fortunately, I am a skeleton, and I can't shoot anything at all." Meanwhile, LV Liang thought to himself, "The Blood Race sisters didn't even mention about having children at all. If they are pregnant, then just raise them. If they are not pregnant, then it doesn't matter either." Right at this moment, 4 figures appeared at the side. To be more precise, there were only 3 figures, and one of them was a husky. "Sister-in-law greetings," the 4 people stood up and greeted respectfully. The 3 people who came were Lai Gu's 3 wives, Wuxia by Xiaofan, and of course, there was also that Yun Lang who stuck out his tongue. Lai Gu's identity in the team belonged to his honor's direct subordinate, and his status was outstanding. Thus, his wife's status naturally rose as well. However, Wuxia and Bai Xiaozhen were still very amiable. They did not become arrogant because of their status, because they understood that if it wasn't for Lai Gu, it would be impossible for them to be standing here and serve the Supreme Overlord. This time, they took the initiative to participate in the mission, not for anything else, but because they wanted to bring honor to their husband and let his honor praise them. As a wife, this was something that was necessary. That's why, these 3 women are all smart women. If not, how would they be able to obtain Lai Gu's affection? Lai Gu was very picky. In the past, he would often change his female dragons, and now, it has already been a year, and it was still the same 3. From the looks of it, these 3 women had already charmed Lai Gu. "You all quickly go back and rest. Leave this place to us." Laughed lightly. In actuality, things like staying up all night can be handed over to other people. It's just that they took the initiative to request it. "Sister-in-law, thank you for your hard work." LV Liang cupped her hands and said with a smile. After all, after acknowledging Lai Gu as his big brother, his hairstyle was split in the middle, and he looked very handsome. However, just as everyone was about to change shifts, an enormous spiritual pressure appeared in the sky. The 7 people and the husky looked up at the sky, and excitement could be seen in their eyes. They really came. His honor is so powerful. He was even able to guess this. The 4 people who came were naturally Du Zue, Jiuling, Chu Ying, and Shi Xiaotian. The 4 people stared at the bonfire, and of course, the people beside the bonfire also had puzzled gazes. Why would these people appear here? Shi Xiaotian asked curiously. However, he wasn't afraid. He was simply curious. Jiuling laughed lightly. "There's even a dog, how interesting." "There's also a skeleton, humph." Du Zue said coldly. Chu Ying asked puzzledly, "Is that the black gown?" "So what if it's the black gown? They are nothing more than a group of women." Du Zue said indifferently. He seemed very calm and didn't panic in the slightest. The 4 people in the sky were very calm and collected. The 7 people below were no longer calm and collected. "Sister-in-law, look, it isn't time to change shifts yet. How about you all sit down and rest?" Zishan said hurriedly. "It wasn't easy for people to come and cause trouble for us, so how about we let them go? Not only are we able to fight, we will also be able to obtain his honor's praise. This is simply killing 2 birds with 1 stone." With a light smile on her face, Wuxia said unhurriedly, "Zishan, since you called us sister-in-law, you should listen to sister-in-law and go back and rest properly. You can just leave the matters here to sister-in-law." So incisive. Even Yunlang, who was at the side, nodded his head vigorously. No matter what, I came out from Voidless, and before I even had the chance to show off my might, I was completely oppressed by Big Sister. Now that the opportunity is here, how can I let it go? Chapter 619. LV Liang wouldn't let go of such a rare opportunity. She took out her mobile phone and pointed at the time. Sister-in-law, look. It's 11:59. It's not 12 yet. Bai Xiaojun was still the same as before. She was a bit shy and said softly, LV Liang, jump. It jumped? LV Liang didn't react for a moment. She then looked at the time. It turned out that it had jumped to 12 o'clock. F***CK. How could this be? FK. Yi Hong had to fight for her wife. Sister-in-law, look, these people all came before 12 o'clock. Let us do it. Sisters-in-law, go back and accompany Big Brother. I'll keep watch tonight. Xiaofan felt very comfortable when she heard these words. Her husband knows that he is thinking for me. She flicked her hair that was messed up by the wind and said softly, Yi Hong, Xiaofan, didn't you two want to have a child recently? Hurry up and go back and give birth to your child. You can leave this matter to sister-in-law. Seems like this doesn't make sense. The 7 people immediately started a nervous debate. Yunlang really wanted to say, I want to fight for it too. You all can't treat me like a dog. I also have human rights. The 4 people in the sky naturally heard their conversation, and their expressions turned ugly. They were actually arguing about such a thing. If they had the guts, they should attack together. Truly a bunch of people who don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Sure, Xiaotian twisted his thick neck and immediately released a wave of evil energy. It actually took on a physical form, and the yellow sand was disintegrated by this evil energy. It was indeed very powerful. The 7 people arguing below became even more excited. Wow, so awesome, so cool. I will do it. I will do it. Ignorance is human nature. I like these people, even though there's no sense of accomplishment in killing them. Jiu Ling said indifferently, her beautiful eyes filled with killing intent. The child, Du Zue, revealed a mocking smile. What a fool! On the ground, Yun Lang barked wildly at the 7 debating people. Woof woof woof, Imperial translation. They are scolding us, and they are even scolding us for being stupid. Yi Hong suddenly thought of an idea and suggested, Sister-in-law, why don't we each take a step back? The other party has 4 people, and we'll each send 2 people. How about that? Upon hearing Yi Hong's suggestion, everyone felt that it was feasible. He still nodded on behalf of the class, which meant that he agreed. Yi Hong's idea was to let his wife vent her anger so that she wouldn't take it out on him every day. Big brother, help me please. Yi Hong begged LV Shu to give this opportunity to Xiaofan. If not, she would definitely not have a good time. Of course, LV Liang knew his little brother's pain. He patted Yi Hong's shoulder and said, Little brother, I know your pain. When Yi Hong heard this, she felt wronged. Xiaofan is simply becoming more and more domineering. Xiaofan is simply riding on me every single day. Big brother, you are my real big brother. Yi Hong was very touched. Big brother was the best. Sigh, you have to work harder as well and satisfy Xiaoshan's request. After that, her attention will be placed on the child. Yi Hong nodded. She also wanted to, but she just couldn't get pregnant. Did she have to go to an andrology hospital? He did not know which one was better. Death Mage, who was at the side, condensed a death scythe in his hand, and under the illumination of the moonlight, a cold glint flashed across the death scythe. Needless to say, Death Mage and Xiaofan would definitely be the ones to fight. Xiaofan excitedly hugged onto her husband and gave him a French kiss. After that, she walked out of the room with a satisfied look on her face. LV Lu said with a smile, Look, as long as you satisfy a woman, she will be completely obedient to you. Yi Hong felt that there was nothing wrong with Xiaoshan's decision. Xiaofan was already very happy just now. I have to continue making Xiaofan happy in the future. In another class, the 3 women were discussing with each other, and Yun Lang was directly ignored. Yun Lang squatted at the side and let out a low groan of grievance. I, Yun Lang, also want my human rights. I also want to fight. You all can't do this. I want to report. As the big sister, she gave the 2 younger sisters the opportunity out of courtesy. When Xia, Xiaozhen, the 2 of you go and have fun, don't lose his honor's face. And we understand. Death Mage, Zishan, Wuxia, and Bai Xiaozhen could be seen walking out of the room. Du Zue, Jiuling, Chu Ying, and Shi Xiaotian descended from the void as well. Looking at the one man and three women in front of them, Death Mage's appearance was rather intimidating. However, the other three women looked extremely weak, as if they would be sent flying with a single slap. Du Zue pointed at Death Mage and hooked his finger, then lightly leaped onto the ground. Death Mage versus Du Zue. Shi Xiaotian clenched his fists, letting out cracking sounds as he shouted towards Bai Xiaozhen. Beauty, come over and play with me. Bai Xiaozhen pursed her lips, then went to the side to fight with Shi Xiaotian. Bai Xiaozhen versus Shi Xiaotian. An evil smile appeared on the corner of Jiuling's mouth as she pointed at Wuxia. Let's play with you then. Alright. Wuxia's expression was still as cool as ever, and her voice was very cold as well. Wuxia versus Jiuling. Chu Ying was definitely going to fight against Zishan. Zishan versus Chu Ying. Wife, do your best. Yi Hong placed both of his hands on the side of his mouth and shouted loudly. Zishan turned around and blew a kiss to her husband, then walked to the side to fight with Chu Ying. For battles were about to begin. First battle. Death Mage versus Du Zue. The two stood on the pitch-black ground of yellow sand, and spiritual pressure that could make people feel fear was being emitted from their bodies. Even the mutated animals in the surroundings didn't dare to get close to them. From this, it could be seen that this Du Zue was a very relaxed person. Without strength, how could he possibly come and fight against Voidless Realm experts? Furthermore, there were only 4 of them. However, Death Mage wasn't a benevolent person either, and the scythe of death that was in his hand was emitting a terrifying aura. Lowly outsider, today I, Du Zue, shall help you. For Du Zue, who was carrying a school bag, to say such a thing was indeed a bit strange. Death Mage. GGG. Imperial translation. You little trash. Du Zue naturally didn't understand what Death Mage meant. Du Zue sneered, then immediately emitted out his aura, causing a gale to howl, and the spiritual pressure to increase explosively. The black robe that was on Death Mage's body fluttered madly, and his pair of bony feet sunk deep into the yellow sand. Du Zue stretched out his small palm and placed his right hand on his left wrist, then shouted out explosively, I'll send you to hell. Boom. A white light could be seen shooting out from Du Zue's palm, which immediately illuminated the dark world. The huge spiritual pressure split the yellow sand into 2. Death Mage stared fixedly at the incoming white light. The scythe of death that was in Du Zue's hand was immediately stabbed into the yellow sand, and a huge black barrier appeared in front of Death Mage. Suddenly, the white light collided with the black barrier, causing a loud sound to ring out. Yi Hong and the others couldn't help but turn their heads around and take a look at the black barrier. The battle has already started so quickly. Look at them, they are still chatting with each other. The black barrier was able to withstand the attack without any difficulty. This caused Du Zue's brows to wrinkle. Then, Du Zue transformed into a meteor, and his small fist immediately smashed onto the black barrier. Crack! Cracks appeared on the black barrier like it was made of glass. Frightening spirit chi immediately spread out, and a wave of chi immediately spread out. This Du Zue was actually able to destroy Death Mage's black barrier with a single punch. From this, it could be seen that Du Zue's strength was rather terrifying. Chapter 620. Humph! You dare to use such insignificant skills in front of me, Du Zue. Du Zue shouted out in disdain. However, right after he finished speaking, a silver light descended from the sky. Du Zue's eyes narrowed, and a long and thick rod appeared in his hands. Death Scythe and the rod collided. Bang! A loud sound reverberated throughout the world, and a ring of light spread out in all directions, which actually caused a sandstorm. Du Zue raised the thick rod in his hands and laughed lightly. You have a bit of strength, but it is not enough. GGG, Imperial translation. Where did you get your confidence from? Death Mage's bone finger immediately emitted an electric light, which was then transferred to his scythe. It could be seen with the naked eye that Du Zue's rod was conducting electricity. ZZ. A terrifying electric current flashed across Du Zue's body, and one could even see Du Zue's skeleton. Du Zue's entire body was emitting smoke and was trembling violently. Looking at it from afar, Du Zue looked a bit like a primary school student in a bar. Du Zue was dancing and had an afro. A green smoke was emitted from the top of Du Zue's head, and there was also a smell of roasted fur. The smell was very uncomfortable. However, Du Zue didn't seem to be affected much. Instead, his expression became even more ferocious, and he tightly held onto the rod in his hands. "You actually injured my body," Du Zue muttered to himself. "It has been a long time since I received such an injury, and I was actually injured by a puny outsider." Overlord boom! Du Zue could be seen raising the rod in his hands high, and the rod immediately emitted a terrifying pressure, causing the surrounding air to instantly boil and distort. The original metal rod also revealed its true form, and it was completely golden. As expected of a nouveau riche, Du Zue's gaze locked onto Death Mage, and the golden rod in his hands descended. However, in the instant that the rod descended, the rod actually became bigger and it was really thick and long. Before the rod even landed on the ground, the spiritual pressure had already split the yellow sand apart. Death Mage silently looked at the rod that was descending towards him. Of course, he wouldn't use his strength to fight against the rod. Last time, when he fought against Xiao Yi, he learned a bloody lesson. Fortunately, my master was merciful and revived me. I won't make this kind of mistake twice. All right, this will be the last time. Forget it. The opponent's strength was more than a level higher than Xiao Yi's. The golden club smashed down towards Death Mage along with blazing flames, and a ray of red light flashed past Death Mage's empty eyes. GGG, Royal Translation, Absolute Domain. Suddenly, a strange formation covered the yellow sand, making everyone gasp in amazement. "Damn, the Master Mage is so strong!" LV Liang exclaimed. Yi Hong also muttered, "Yeah, I feel like no one is a match for it under this absolute domain." Everyone at the side still tacitly agreed. It could be seen that Death Mage was indeed very powerful. The husky that was squatting on the side licked its feet in boredom. "I want human rights." In the middle of the stage, a gigantic golden rod descended from the sky. Death Mage did not dodge the attack and just stood there. He did not even bother to defend himself. "Die, alien!" Du Zue shouted angrily. The child's voice suddenly became old, and carried a cold wind with it. Bang! The golden cudgel had indeed smashed down, but it was shattered into pieces. The cudgel turned into specks of starlight in front of Du Zue's astonished eyes, and rose into the night sky. What is going on? Du Zue looked at the skeleton not far away in disbelief. He had clearly hit it. How could this be? Du Zue looked at his own hands with a confused expression. This was the first time such a strange thing had happened. GGG, Imperial Translation. Little trash, kneel down before this Master Mage. Boom. Du Zue felt a tremendous spiritual pressure coming towards him, and his expression immediately turned sinister, and his legs began bending. Ha! Du Zue shouted out angrily, and an even greater amount of spiritual energy emerged from his body to resist against the spiritual pressure. The skin on Du Zue's face began falling off bit by bit, and his delicate skin also began degenerating, revealing wrinkles. In just a few moments, Du Zue had turned into a short and small old man. Du Zue's current appearance almost made Death Mage vomit. This is 2F** King disgusting. There are only a few strands of hair on Du Zue's head, his back is hunched, and his teeth are all incomplete. Coupled with that sinister face of his, Death Mage looks extremely disgusting. If it was possible to vomit, Death Mage would definitely vomit without any hesitation. "I will kill you. I will kill you, alien. I will use your bones to annihilate evil." Du Zue roared towards the sky, and the layer of black clouds in the sky immediately dispersed, revealing a sky full of stars. "Kill!" Du Zue shouted out angrily. Cold stars could be seen flickering in the starry sky, and Death Mage raised his head and looked at the stars. From the looks of it, Du Zue still doesn't know what kind of situation he is in. The cold stars in the sky could be seen descending rapidly, and those were countless blades that brought along a scorching aura as they descended. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Blades that were formed by spiritual energy landed on the ground of yellow sand, and immediately, beautiful patterns were formed. Everyone's eyes couldn't help but brighten up. Looking at this scene, LV Liang couldn't help but say, "This move is pretty good for proposing." Yi Hong, who was at the side, silently nodded her head. Yi Hong still smiled and said, Do you men really know how to be so romantic? From the looks of it, what Yi Hong said revealed Lai Gu's true nature. Right now, Du Zue was gasping for breath as he slightly raised his head and looked at Death Mage. Die! Countless blades that were formed from spiritual energy instantly aimed at Death Mage, and the blades that were formed from spiritual energy attacked towards Death Mage while emitting the aura of death. A shocking might shook the world, and everyone couldn't help but gasp. Death Mage let out a strange laughter once again. GGG, Imperial Translation. Let me show you. What is called absolute comprehension? Death Mage slowly raised his hand. Damned alien, I won't accept your surrender. Du Zue shouted coldly. This damned alien dared to show off in front of him. Death Mage ignored Death Mage and placed his thumb and middle finger together. This scene made LV Liang and Yi Hong's jaws drop slightly. Holy shit! Even mages have learned his honor's unique way to act cool. Snap my fingers. LV Liang was dumbstruck. In actuality, I also want to act cool like this. This is too interesting. Yi Hong also had a look of envy on her face. She didn't have Death Mage's style and only knew how to use his fists to solve problems. Du Zue narrowed his eyes and looked puzzled. What was this alien trying to do? Pa! Death Mage lightly snapped his fingers, and the countless spiritual chi swords instantly stopped moving. This. The corner of Du Zue's mouth twitched, and he even rubbed his eyes. How is this possible? Was it an illusion? However, this was not the end. All the spiritual energy blades turned around at this moment and pointed at sin expiation. GGG, Royal Translation. In absolute comprehension. I am God. However, Du Zue could not understand Death Mage's language at all. He was stunned by the scene in front of him. Boom, boom, boom. Countless spiritual chi swords attacked towards Du Zue. Immediately, a dazzling white light burst out from the spiritual chi swords and soared straight into the sky. Chapter 621. If there were no other factors, it would be quite beautiful. Gradually, the darkness shrouded the earth again. Du Zue was lying on the ground, gasping for breath. There were many bloody wounds on his body, but he was not dead. From this, it could be seen how strong Death Mage was. Death Mage was also a bit absent-minded. He actually didn't die. Interesting. He threw out a black shackle and bound Du Zue, waiting to be dealt with. Damned outsiders. Why are you so strong? Du Zue was still unwilling to accept this reality. How could his ultimate move be used against him? This was unheard of. Death Mage took out his phone and typed a few words before showing it to Du Zue. It's not that I'm too strong, it's that you're too weak. Puff. Du Zue couldn't help but vomit out a mouthful of blood. I didn't expect that there would be such a terrifying existence in this world. If I had known that it would be like this. Suddenly, Du Zue seemed to think of something. Heaven and Earth Pillar, I'm going to kill you. Only now did Du Zue realize that he had fallen into Heaven and Earth's trap. Bastard. It seemed that he already knew about the situation here and deliberately said that tonight. He wanted them to come here and court death. At this time, Qing Tiandi was eating instant noodles and watching If You Are the One when he sneezed. Yi Zichen muttered, it's already spring, and it's still so cold, I have to wear more clothes. Shi Xiaotian versus Bai Xiaozhen. Shi Xiaotian, who was standing on the sand dune, revealed a playful smile. Such a delicate woman was just like a weak animal. He could easily strangle her to death. Kneel down and kowtow to Brother Xiaotian, and I'll spare your life. Shi Xiaotian twisted his thick arms. With a height of 2 meters, coupled with his physique, he looked like a small mountain in front of Bai Xiaozhen. Because she was on the night shift, Bai Xiaozhen wore a long down jacket. But now, she took off the down jacket and wore sportswear inside. Her arrogant figure was immediately exposed to the air. This caused Shi Xiaotian to be slightly stunned, and then he said with a smile, What? Trying to seduce my brother Xiaotian? It's useless. I have no interest in you. Bai Xiaozhen slowly raised her arm, pointed her finger at Shi Xiaotian, and then crooked her finger. This was blatant teasing. Shi Xiaotian sneered. He had never seen such an audacious woman before. He roared in anger. His body immediately emitted a golden light, and thick blue veins popped out of his skin. His muscles also began to swell. Looking at him now, Shi Xiaotian looked like he was made of stone. Every muscle on his body was so explosive, as if they were made of carbon fiber. His huge fists seemed like they could shatter anything in the world. Although such a muscular man was huge, he would definitely be welcomed by young ladies, especially those who liked muscular men. I really can't bear to shatter your body. But who told you to anger me? Shi Xiaotian roared. His right fist sparkled with a golden radiance, bringing with it a boiling hot aura as he punched towards the petite Bai Xiaozhen. Bai Xiaozhen was only 168 centimeters tall, but in front of Shi Xiaotian, she was too small. His fist was as big as Bai Xiaozhen's face. The violent astral energy blew Bai Xiaozhen's beautiful hair into a mess. Her beautiful eyes were filled with the huge fist. Bai Xiaozhen slowly stretched out her left arm. This action caused Shi Xiaotian to laugh wildly. You overestimate yourself. Go to hell. Be instantly killed by my strength. Haha. Boom. Under the fist, the yellow sand instantly flew into the air and spread outwards. A huge shockwave covered the sky and covered the earth. This was a confrontation of strength. There was no need to haggle over it. But Bai Xiaozhen was developed by Lai Gu. Her strength was also able to destroy the world, causing people to be speechless. Just like the current Shi Xiaotian, that crazed smile on his face had become stiff. Bai Xiaozhen could be seen stretching out her slender index finger and tapping on the huge fist. If the camera zoomed in, one would discover that it was actually her fingernail that tapped on the huge fist. Shi Xiaotian muttered. He was completely unable to react to what was happening. The corner of Bai Xiaozhen's mouth curled up slightly. My strength is not bad. To actually look down on me, Brother Xiaotian. You have to pay the price for overestimating yourself. A golden light emerged from Shi Xiaotian's skin, and he was like a god that had descended to the mortal world. His stiff face became incomparably malevolent, and he clenched his fists tightly and raised them up high. You are going to pay a painful price. Go to hell. Shi Xiaotian's fists flourished with golden light, and that scorching aura reverberated in the air, causing people to be filled with fear. From Shi Xiaotian's point of view, if he were to punch down with his fists, he would definitely be able to smash this woman into a meat patty. However, how is a man who raised his fists up high going to protect the treasures on his body? Not only is Bai Xiaozhen's strength great, her speed is also outstanding. Following Bai Xiaozhen's light shout, her slender and beautiful legs swept onto Shi Xiaotian's crotch. Shi Xiaotian, who was preparing to smash down, had his eyeballs about to pop out. I never expected that this woman would actually play such a dirty trick. I can be considered to have gone through hundreds of battles. All of us have the rules of the underworld. Kicking someone's crotch is simply a child's play. Shi Xiaotian, who had an extraordinary aura just a moment ago, immediately held onto his crotch as if he was a cooked shrimp. You slut! You actually plotted against me. Shi Xiaotian couldn't help but shout out. Shameless to the extreme. You will definitely receive retribution. Bai Xiaozhen said in a low voice, this is a move to guard against wolves. F***K. I am fighting with you. It's not like I want to sully you. What the hell are you guarding against wolves for? The pain in his crotch caused Shi Xiaotian to sweat profusely. Oh, is that so? I'm sorry, it was just a subconscious action. Bai Xiaozhen's words almost caused Shi Xiaotian to vomit blood from anger. Before Shi Xiaotian could react, Bai Xiaozhen's small fist directly smashed onto Shi Xiaotian's abdomen. The golden light on Shi Xiaotian's abdomen could be seen shattering into pieces. Shi Xiaotian wasn't sent flying. It wasn't that Bai Xiaozhen's strength wasn't enough, rather, Shi Xiaotian didn't want Shi Xiaotian to be sent flying. Sneak attack. Shi Xiaotian held onto his crotch with his left hand and held onto his abdomen with his right hand, then directly laid onto the pile of sand. These two blows nearly took Shi Xiaotian's life. After all, Bai Xiaozhen's fists and kicks weren't for show, and it was already a miracle that Shi Xiaotian was still able to speak. I thought that we were going to start fighting. Shi Xiaotian, if you don't follow the rules of the underworld, I'm not going to fight with you anymore, stinky woman. Shameless. Before Shi Xiaotian could even see clearly, his face was slapped by Bai Xiaozhen, and his entire body was sent flying. Bai Xiaozhen's face was ice cold. In this world, other than his honor and my husband, no one else can even think of scolding me. Shi Xiaotian, who was sent flying, laid on the pile of sand, and as if he had been slapped silly, he blankly stared at the starry sky. Shi Xiaoyan's appearance was a bit similar to Feng Tian, who was slapped to the point that he became autistic. Chapter 622. Isn't it good for me to be a chef and research on recipes? And I actually came to this damned voidless realm. I must have been possessed by greed and was actually deceived by God raising heaven and earth. Thinking up to here, Shi Xiaotian seemed to have realized something. I fell for God raising heaven and earth's trick again. Bastard! I'll die a horrible death. Bai Xiaozhen slowly walked to Shi Xiaotian's side, then lowered her head and looked at Shi Xiaotian. What are you looking at? I'm going to. Before Shi Xiaotian finished speaking, Bai Xiaozhen punched towards Shi Xiaotian's abdomen once again. A hole was punched out from the entire yellow sand. How terrifying! However, Shi Xiaotian is still not dead. He is truly resistant to beatings. No wonder he had the courage to come to Voidless Realm. Bai Xiaozhen grabbed onto Shi Xiaotian's neck and began walking back. Shi Xiaotian was no longer the Xiaotian GE from just now. He was more like a dead GE. On the other side, Wuxia versus Zhou Ling. The two women were the kind of women that were one in a million. Even in this kind of weather, Wuxia's body was only wearing a black leather shirt and pants, but the tight-fitting clothes perfectly accentuated her curvaceous figure. She looked very cold and sexy. Zhou Ling, who was standing opposite of Wuxia, looked very arrogant. She was wearing a white evening gown and a white round hat, looking just like a noble lady. Beauty, are you interested in following me? Zhou Ling said with a light smile, the corner of her mouth slightly raised. She is also a rare beauty. Wuxia said coldly, not interested. Sigh, what a pity. I really can't bear to lay my hands on a beauty like you. That is if you can. Wuxia sneered. I haven't fought for a long time. My entire body is itching. Beauty, your tone isn't small. I won't be polite then. Zhou Ling's expression gradually turned cold, and two daggers condensed in her hands. With just a look, one could tell that the daggers were not ordinary goods. I won't be polite either. Wuxia's cold look was even more serious than Zishan. Even when facing Lai Gu, Wuxia still had a straight face and rarely smiled. Perhaps it was because of this that Lai Gu liked Wuxia a lot. He liked that cold look of hers. It felt very comfortable and pleasurable. Zhou Ling shouted, and her beautiful figure suddenly disappeared. In the blink of an eye, he appeared behind Wuxia and stabbed his dagger towards her neck. However, Zhou Ling's eyes darkened. She immediately sheathed her saber and even abruptly pulled away. He looked at Wuxia in disbelief. Many things had happened in that instant. When Zhou Ling appeared behind Wuxia, her heart was filled with joy. She would be able to kill this cold and elegant woman with a single strike. However, just as she was about to stab into her delicate neck, Zhou Ling suddenly noticed that Wuxia was looking at her, and a sense of danger swept through her body. She didn't think too much about it and immediately distanced herself. You! Beads of sweat appeared on Zhou Ling's forehead. Just from that moment, Zhou Ling felt the gap between them. This woman could actually discover him. It could be seen that her speed was also very fast, and she might even surpass him. Wuxia slowly turned around and looked at Zhou Ling. Are you distancing yourself because you are afraid? I'm afraid of you. What a joke. Are you really not afraid? When Wuxia said this, she had already appeared behind Zhou Ling and was even right next to her ear. Zhou Ling's expression changed drastically. Even she didn't notice this ghostly speed. What was going on? How could this woman's speed be faster than mine? The dagger in Zhou Ling's hand drew a beautiful arc in the air. The white round hat on her head was also sent flying by the force and fell onto the yellow sand. Wuxia grabbed Zhou Ling's wrist and said softly, I really can't bear to kill a woman like you. Zhou Ling felt the force from her wrist and couldn't move at all. She immediately attacked with her left hand, but Wuxia seemed to know what was going to happen and reached out to grab Zhou Ling's wrist. Zhou Ling's pretty face was filled with panic as her hands were held tightly by Wuxia. Ha! Zhou Ling shouted and a terrifying spiritual energy burst out from her body. It was as if she wanted to use this method to break free from Wuxia's restraint. But was Wuxia that weak? She wasn't afraid of Zhou Ling's spiritual pressure at all. Who are you? Zhou Ling asked in a low voice. The pain in her wrist caused her to let go of the dagger and fall onto the yellow sand. Wuxia snorted coldly. Who am I? The person who serves the supreme sovereign. After saying that, a terrifying aura burst out from Wuxia's body. It was as if the entire air was trembling. Puff! Jiuling was forced to spit out blood by this terrifying aura. Her beautiful face immediately withered and revealed her original appearance. Looking at Jiuling's appearance, Wuxia said indifferently, "So you're old and can't even compare to me." Hearing this, Jiuling spat out another mouthful of blood. Her opponent was so powerful that she couldn't defend against it. She didn't even get to use many of her abilities before she was pinned down. But even if she did, it would be useless. This woman was too powerful. Just this aura alone was enough to make her spit out blood. How could such a person exist? What was wrong with this planet? Wuxia didn't waste any more time and punched Jiuling's abdomen. This punch immediately scattered Jiuling's spiritual energy. In layman's terms, this punch had crippled Jiuling. At the same time, Wuxia let go of Jiuling. Blood flowed from the corner of Jiuling's mouth. Her withered face was filled with fear. She pointed at Wuxia and shouted, "You woman! How vicious!" "Vicious? You should think that I'm kind and didn't want your life," Wuxia said coldly. There was not a trace of color in her eyes. After pausing for a moment, Wuxia said again, "Of course, I don't know if you'll be able to live or not, because you'll have to wait for my punishment later." Wait for my punishment? Jiuling thought about the Overlord Paramount that Wuxia mentioned just now. These people are actually the subordinates of the Overlord Paramount. What kind of existence is the Overlord Paramount? Why didn't Heaven and Earth tell me about this? Or did Heaven and Earth know about this and did it on purpose? Jiuling finally realized that she was tricked by Heaven and Earth again and became his cannon fodder. This is what vicious means. Wuxia grabbed Jiuling's neck and walked back. "You're still too weak. You didn't allow me to use my full strength." This woman is actually so pretentious. Jiuling's lungs were about to explode from anger, but she was helpless and could only let Wuxia grab her. "Damn you, Heaven and Earth. Even if I die, I'll wait for you at the Bridge of Helplessness." On the other side, it was Zishan versus Chu-Ying. Zishan rotated her neck and twisted her waist. She even did some stretching exercises and said with a light smile, "I'm just doing a warm-up exercise. You can also do it, but be careful not to get cramps." Chapter 623. "No, you can do it," Chu-Ying said softly as she watched the woman in front of her doing chest exercises. LV Liang, who was far away, said in a low voice, "Little brother, your wife is too. I have to talk about it in the future. I simply can't bear to look straight at her." The corner of Yi Hong's mouth twitched slightly. His wife was actually doing chest expansion exercises in front of another man. Those who knew about it were warming up, but those who did not know would think that it was a crazy hint. I must talk to her tonight. Too unruly. This was too outrageous. LV Liang even reminded Yi Hua in a low voice, "Don't forget Big Brother's experience, it is a painful memory." Yi Hong looked at his wife who was far away. That is absolute trust in Zishan. How could Zishan possibly do such a thing? Big Brother is trying to scare me again. Zishan sure knows how to have fun. The person at the side laughed lightly. Husky, who was squatting at the side, was listless. "I also want human rights. Don't ignore my existence just because I'm a dog." Finally, Zishan did a set of broadcast calisthenics. "All right, let's begin." Chu-Ying coughed a little, and with a soft shout, a long blade appeared in her right hand. As for Zishan, she condensed out a colorful long sword, which was emitting a unique spiritual energy. "Not bad. You are a powerful character. Where are you from?" Chu-Ying asked curiously. "Oh, you know about deities?" Zishan was a bit surprised. This person actually knows about the existence of deities. Chu-Ying chuckled. "Of course, I'm also a god." "My heaven's sanctum? Where are you from?" The two of them started chatting as if they were from the same hometown. LV Liang poked her underling. "See, they're already chatting. Be careful." Originally, Yi Hong had a confident look on her face, but when she saw that her wife was actually chatting with that person, they seemed to be quite happy, as if they were friends who had not seen each other for a long time. In an instant, they were in a bad mood and expressed their jealousy. Hearing Zishan's answer, Chu-Ying smiled and said, Tianfu, it is a big city. I am from Linwei City. Linwei? It's just a small place. It can't be compared to heaven's sanctum. Chu Ying smiled. Zishan replied with an "Oh. So, it's a small place. How long have you been here?" "It's been a long time. I don't even remember." "What about you?" Chu Ying asked again. "Me? I just came last year." Chu Ying nodded. "I've heard that the Heaven's Sanctum's capital is very grand. I've always wanted to go there, but I've never had the chance. I'm afraid that there won't be another chance in the future. That imperial city is already gone." Zishan smiled tenderly. This caused Yi Hong, who was far away, to immediately feel bad. His wife is even smiling. "Did something happen in the imperial capital?" Chu Ying asked curiously. "Yes, they're all dead. It's very tragic." Chu Ying immediately frowned, her eyes filled with doubt. How could such a powerful place like the imperial capital be destroyed? Yi Hong couldn't stand it anymore. She ran to her wife and whispered, "What are you doing?" "Husband, this is someone from my hometown." We chatted for a bit longer. "This is my husband." Zishan actually started introducing her husband. Yi Hong almost fainted. Zishan wasn't like this in the past. Chu Ying nodded at Yi Hong as if greeting her. The latter nodded helplessly. "We're a polite party. We don't kill people randomly." "That's enough, husband. You should quickly go over. Don't disturb my fight." Zishan hurriedly pushed Yi Hong away. "Really, all you know is how to be jealous. Then stop chatting." "I know." Looking at her husband leaving, Zishan smiled. "My husband likes to be jealous. He would get jealous after seeing me chatting with other men for a bit." "Hee hee. Looks like you found the right person." "That's right, I'm quite lucky." Seeing how Yi Hong kept turning his head back every few steps, Zishan even blew a kiss to Yi Hong, telling him not to worry. Chu Ying's expression gradually darkened, then said faintly, "Let's begin." Zishan lightly sighed, then said, "You guys should just give up resisting, because there is no chance of winning." "Why?" Chu Ying asked in a low voice. "Do you know who destroyed the imperial capital?" Chu Ying remained silent. "It's us, and of course, the great Overlord Transcendent." When speaking about the Overlord Transcendent, Zishan's gaze revealed a burning admiration. She was simply like a completely different person compared to before. "You guys destroyed the imperial capital." Chu Ying found it hard to believe. There are as many experts in the imperial capital as there are clouds. How could the imperial capital be destroyed? "That's right, if you surrender, you might still be able to have your corpse intact." Zishan continued to persuade. "We're all from the same hometown, why is there a need to fight like that?" The blade in Chu Ying's hand emitted out a surge of evil aura. "None of my Linwei City's men surrender." Zishan understood and didn't continue to persuade. "All right. Take care." Chu Ying didn't say anything. The blade in her hand immediately unsheathed, and a berserk blade aura gushed out, instantly lighting up the entire sky, as if it was going to connect the heaven and earth. Puff! Chu Ying's expression darkened, she slightly lowered her head, and a sharp sword tip could be seen appearing on her chest, and on that resplendent light, there was even her own blood. "Just surrender. You are not my opponent," Zishan said in a low voice. "I feel that this person is still all right, so I don't want to be too ruthless." Chu Ying's expression tensed up. Her heart was surging violently. "I don't even know when this woman appeared behind me, and I only felt a chill on my chest. When did such a powerful person appear in Heaven's mansion? Could it be that what she said was true? Was the imperial capital really destroyed by them? On the other hand, Yi Hong, who was far away, was very happy. "Big brother, did you see that? My wife is still very awesome." Elvi Liang didn't deny it. "She is indeed awesome." Zishan, who was still standing at the side, snorted, "Men, hee hee." The green and red brothers had stupefied expressions on their faces. What's wrong with this sister-in-law? For her to suddenly say such a thing. This is so strange. On the field, Chu Ying didn't pay any attention to the long sword on her chest, and the blade in her hand once again slashed towards Zishan. The blade was incomparably ferocious, and even if it meant that Zishan's wound would be pulled open, she didn't hesitate at all. Looking at the empty ground in front of her and the cold sword intent on her neck, Chu Ying's expression became gloomy. "Move again. I will kill you." Xiaofan changed her previous imposing manner and said with killing intent. The sword intent emitted out from the long sword in Xiaofan's hand had already sliced open Chu Ying's skin, and a stream of blood flowed out from her neck. Just as Chu Ying was about to make her move again, she suddenly saw a black-cloaked figure walking towards the bonfire, and behind the black-cloaked figure was actually Du Zue. Following closely behind the black-cloaked figure was Bai Xiaozhen. Bai Xiaozhen was actually grabbing onto Shi Xiaotian's neck and dragging him all the way over, and Shi Xiaotian was actually like a dead fish, completely not showing any reaction. There was also a woman who came over, and she actually directly threw the 9 spirits over. I can't even sense the 9 spirits' spiritual energy. Your companion is already in such a state. Are you still going to resist? Xiaofan asked faintly. Chapter 624. Let's go. Xiaofan said indifferently. Chu Ying seemed to have lost her soul as she walked towards the bonfire. Xiaofan also sheathed her sword. However, she did not feel satisfied at all. Her opponent was simply too weak. All 4 of them were taken down and stood next to the bonfire. Although they were all injured, none of them were dead. She continued to stare at the 4 intruders and shouted coldly, "Kneel!" A ferocious aura burst forth from her delicate body, and a huge spiritual pressure pressed down on their backs like a mountain. Finally, they could not bear it any longer and knelt down. "Kill me if you want, but don't insult us," Du Zue shouted angrily. As Lai Gu's first wife, EU's seniority here was also considered to be high. Thus, EU was the one to speak for the time being. "Insult? You guys are thinking too much. This isn't an insult. It's a pity." He still hinted to LV Tao to inform Wei Chong to come over. He couldn't go above his rank to report this matter. "Who the hell are you people? How can Voidless Realm have you too? This is impossible." Jiuling was still unable to think through this problem. Voidless Realm is indeed powerful, but it is definitely not powerful to such an extent. You have a lot of questions, but as losers, you should act like losers. Just lower your heads and keep quiet. Haha. Bow my head to you? Don't even think about it. Du Zue laughed wildly, showing no sign of fear. Bai Xiaozhen's beautiful eyes narrowed, and she slapped the void. Pa! This sound was very loud, and it was enough to send Du Zue's teeth flying. Motherf ****. I will kill you even if I become a ghost. Du Zue spat out a mouthful of blood and roared at Bai Xiaozhen. If possible, Bai Xiaozhen wanted to kill this person. He was too disgusting. However, his honor didn't give me any orders, so I temporarily kept it. LV Shu also reported the situation to Wei Chong. At this time, Wei Chong was hugging Tang Wei and sleeping soundly. After hearing the report, he immediately woke up. Someone really dared to come. After putting on his pajamas, Wei Chong came over immediately. A black whirlpool appeared beside the bonfire, and when the 4 people who were kneeling down saw it, their gazes were filled with fright. The aura that was being emitted out from the whirlpool. It was too terrifying. However, when she saw a man who was wearing pajamas walking out, the corner of her mouth slightly twitched. "This is different from what I thought it would be. Uncle Wei." Everyone present called out respectfully. Even Yunlang lowered his head. Needless to say, the 4 people kneeling on the ground were amazed. These people were already very scary, but they were actually so respectful to a man in pajamas. This was a little scary. Who was this man in pajamas? What's going on? Wei Chong frowned. Being woken up from his sleep was definitely not a good feeling. Death Mage said respectfully, "Master, those people were preparing to launch a sneak attack on Voidless Realm tonight, and we intercepted them." Wei Chong turned his head and looked at the 4 people kneeling on the ground. His eyes were so deep that no one dared to look at them. The 4 people didn't even dare to raise their heads. No wonder losers have to lower their heads, because they don't even have the courage to raise their heads. "Who are you people?" Wei Chong asked in a low voice. Jiuling didn't have much time to think and hurriedly explained, "It's a misunderstanding. We were all deceived by someone." "Oh who? Heaven and earth. He is the boss behind that Justice and Order Alliance. He has always wanted to mess with Voidless Realm." Du Zue hurriedly explained. The man in pajamas in front of him didn't even have any thoughts of resisting. "Heaven and earth," Wei Chong muttered. Originally, I didn't plan to inform His Honor, but since it was related to heaven and earth, I still have to ask for His Honor's opinion. Right now, Yi Hua wasn't hugging onto his wife to sleep. Instead, he was hugging onto his daughter and son. The two little fellows were nestled within their father's embrace and were sleeping very sweetly. Yi Hua, who was sleeping, was woken up by Wei Chong. Wei Chong, if you don't give me an explanation, watch how I am going to teach you a lesson. Yi Hua snorted. This is too outrageous. How many times have I told you not to contact me after 10 p.m., unless something big happened? Wei Chang's expression became respectful. Even though Yi Hua wasn't in front of him, Wei Chang still bowed down. When the others saw Wei Chang's expression, they definitely knew that His Honor was angry, and they bowed down as well. This action of Wei Chang's caused the four people to be stupefied. Just who are these people? Why did the scary pajama man become so terrified, as if he is afraid of something? Your Honor, there are ambushers outside, Wei Chang explained. However, this explanation made Yi Hua not very satisfied. Just kill them. Is there a need to report such a small matter? But they said that they were deceived by heaven and earth. Speaking of heaven and earth, Yi Hua's gaze became serious. After ending the conversation with His Honor, Wei Chang let out a breath of relief. I knew that His Honor had already gone to rest. It's all because of these four idiots. Is Voidless Realm a place that you all should come to? 8 people and 1 dog stood respectfully beside the bonfire. This kind of action made the 4 people who were kneeling down feel very heavy. They seemed to be waiting for someone to come out. Just who is it? The 4 people were unable to figure out who it was, but what they were sure of was that it was definitely an even more terrifying existence. Or perhaps, it was that Supreme Overlord. Very quickly, Yi Hua's figure appeared. He was wearing a military coat, and he looked very sloppy. At the very least, that was what the 4 people who were kneeling down thought. Subordinates, we pay our respects to your honor. The 8 people's shouts were very intimidating in this quiet night, and it seemed as if their shouts had broken through the clouds. Woo! Erha also kneeled down. Yi Hua waved his hand, and everyone stood up respectfully. Du Zue's mind was completely blank. This is the Supreme Overlord. I originally thought that it was that pajamas guy. I didn't expect that it would be that military coat guy. Jiuling looked at Wei Chang. This man is already very powerful. I didn't expect that there would be someone even more powerful. In Chu Ying's heart, those people just now were already extremely terrifying, and that pajamas guy was even more terrifying. But I didn't expect that there would be another one. How am I supposed to live? Furthermore, these people are so respectful and even fearful towards the military coat guy. My God. Just what kind of person did I provoke? Sure, Xiaotian remained silent throughout the entire process. As a big guy to be beaten up by a woman, it's so shameful. Even speaking feels like it's shameful. Just them? Yi Hua muttered. Wei Chang stood respectfully behind Yi Hua. That's right, Your Honor. Yi Hua pointed at Chu Ying and said faintly, I am asking you, did God Atlas let you all come here? Chu Ying nodded her head, then said gravely, That's right. We were all tricked by God Atlas, that's why we came here. Yi Hua looked towards Jiuling and asked, What is the relationship between you all and God Atlas? How could Jiuling dare to hide anything from Yi Hua? Just hearing this man's question, I feel as if my heart is going to explode. Chapter 625. Yi Hua then pointed at Du Zue. Why didn't Qing Tian and Tian Di come with you? Du Zue immediately said, Your Honor, although Qing Tian Di is with us, he is very cunning. We have suffered a lot of losses in the past. This time, he even used us as cannon fodder to test you. Are you trying to say that this god raising heaven and earth is your boss? Yi Hua asked indifferently. This god raising heaven and earth's brain is indeed not bad, and he is very good at reading people's minds. Jiuling lowered his head and said, Your Honor, this Qing Tian was originally one of us. We really didn't mean it, please spare our lives. What is the purpose of you all raiding Voidless Realm at night? Yi Hua walked to the side of the bonfire and sat down. Stretching out both of his hands, Yi Hua warmed himself up and stared at the golden-colored flames. The 4 of them remained silent for a moment, and then Chu Ying said gravely, Voidless Realm is a small world, we want to obtain it. Chu Ying thought that His Honor would be shocked by what she said, But who would have thought that after hearing what she said, his honor did not have any reaction at all? The dog actually ran to the side to pee. How could you pee in such a serious situation? Can you have a bit of civility? So that's why you're here. What a pity. Yihua stood up and tightened the military coat that he was wearing. The night in this desert is indeed a bit cold. The four didn't understand what Yihua meant and were very puzzled. Just kill them, Yihua said faintly. There was basically no reason for him to kill them. Yes. Wei Chong replied respectfully without a trace of pity. If his honor wants someone to die at midnight, then his honor will definitely not let them live until midnight. The four people kneeling on the ground couldn't believe it. They were actually going to kill him. And in such a pretentious manner. Wasn't he afraid of being struck by lightning? Just as Wei Chong was about to make his move, Chu Ying suddenly burst into laughter. Xiaotian, who was silent on the side, suddenly came back to his senses. Even Du Zue and Jiuling could feel it. Now that things have come to this, I can only fight. Hearing Chu Ying's words, Yihua, who was originally going to leave, suddenly turned around and asked faintly, "Let's take a gamble and turn a bicycle into a motorcycle." You forced us to do this. Just as Chu Ying finished speaking, her body emitted a faint light. Not only Chu Ying, but also Jiuling, Du Zue, and Xiaotian. Yihua took out a packet of furong wang from the pocket of his military uniform, then took out a cigarette and lit it up. There are a lot of people who wanted to fight against me, and in the end, all of them went to hell to gamble. Chu Ying sneered. It's not certain who will go to hell. The four of them quickly formed hand seals, and a terrifying aura suddenly emanated from each of them. Even the 9 spirits, whose spiritual qi had been scattered, were the same. Just as Wei Chong was about to kill the 4 of them, Yihua stopped Wei Chong. Let's see what they want to do. Spirit concentration transformation. The 4 of them shouted and a monstrous cyclone immediately swept across the area. A tornado descended from the sky and enveloped the 4 of them. Yihua laughed. Interesting, using your life as the price to strengthen your strength. Your honor, allow subordinate to go out and fight against the enemy. Zishan cupped her hands and shouted out. This is the opponent that I want. Yihua said indifferently, I haven't played for a long time, you all can back off. Your honor, Lai Gu's 3 wives shouted out sweetly. Why is it that whenever his honor meets someone who is slightly more powerful, his honor would snatch them away, leaving us, who are his subordinates, with no place to display our abilities? Wei Chang's brows wrinkled. Nonsense. You all dare to disobey his honor's order. The 4 women hurriedly knelt down and admitted their wrongs. All right, I will forget about it this time. I hope that there won't be a next time. Yihua said in a low voice. As the saying goes, subordinates should act like subordinates. A party can be played around, but a proper business must be serious. Thank you, Your Honor. Your honor is blessed by the heavens. Yihua didn't say anything. Don't you all have any new vocabulary? You all only say these few phrases every day. I am already sick of hearing them. Sensing the aura within the tornado, Yihua was indeed a bit surprised. The tornado seems to have already reached the strength of an overlord. This spirit concentration transformation is a good thing, but the price to pay for it is too heavy. Yihua can feel that their life force is slipping away. Why bother? Wouldn't it be better to just leave quickly? After the tornado disappeared, Yihua was still very satisfied with their current state. Her body was huge, reaching a height of 3 meters. Her head was Chu Ying's, her shoulders were Du Zue and Xiaotian's, and her chest was Jiuling. Yihua guessed that the crotch position should be the one that holds up the heavens. No wonder I would be able to trick you all like this, arranging a crotch position for you all. It is already very nice of me to not stab you all in the back. Power. Is this power? Ha 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 ha. Du Zue was able to feel the surging power, as if he is able to shatter this entire planet with a single punch. This feeling is truly incomparably powerful. Jiuling didn't expect that this attack would be so powerful, and her confidence immediately returned to her body. Jiuling let out an eerie laugh. Even if I die, I will still drag you all down with me. Even if I die, I will still drag you all down with me. Chu Ying took a deep breath. No matter how powerful you are, you will still die in this desert. Yihua had heard too many of such words. This is the confidence that power gives, and they think that they are able to crush their opponent. However, How would they know that I, the Supreme Overlord, am the source of power? Go and die! Tremble under my power! Xiaofan shouted out, and his enormous body immediately shone with a golden light. Yi Hua could feel that his power was once again rising crazily. The entire desert was giving off an aftershock, and the sky seemed to have sensed this power as well, causing the sky to start rumbling. Yi Hua slightly raised his right hand and said faintly, "All power has to kneel for me." Following that, the sound of thumb and middle finger tapping on each other rang out. The group of 4 who were arrogant just a moment ago went into a daze. It was as if their bodies had been frozen, and even the expression on their faces was the same. A light breeze blew over, and Xiaofan's enormous body instantly fell onto the ground like a pile of sand, merging together with the yellow sand on the ground. Seeing that his honor had displayed his might, everyone hurriedly kneeled down and shouted out, "His honor's power is boundless." Sigh, it is so lonely to be too powerful. I, the Supreme Overlord, am going to wash my hands of this world. After finished speaking, Yi Hua disappeared from the bonfire. Hearing his honor's lonely tone, as well as his honor's back view, everyone couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. As expected of our leader, this way of acting cool is so scary. His honor's snap of his fingers is so cool. Yi Hua was also feeling very helpless. Right now, I have fallen to acting cool in front of my subordinates, and I don't even have an audience anymore. If this continues on, it will be meaningless. After returning to the room, Yi Hua discovered that the 2 little fellows were sitting on the bed. "Daddy, Daddy," Yi Hua hugged onto the 2 children. "Why are you both awake?" Big sister said that Daddy went to look for Mommy, and that Daddy isn't going to sleep with Yen, anymore. Yi Yen, this little fellow, is becoming more and more clingy to his father, and Yi Yen is constantly following behind his father. Dong Huang Baiji is also the same. Her daughter is also following behind her father, and Dong Huang Baiji doesn't even care about her, the mother. Chapter 626. She even wanted to occupy her husband's body when he was sleeping at night, and if he didn't let her, she would cry and throw a tantrum. In Harbor City, God raising heaven and earth still hadn't slept yet. While watching the television he muttered, "You guys can go and die." Yi Hua's guess was right. God raising heaven and earth was still brooding over the matter of his crotch. As expected of a narrow-minded man. This is God raising heaven and earth's true purpose, to kill others with a borrowed knife. In this competition, Yi Hua seemed to have fallen behind once again. Yi Hua knew about this, and his interest was piqued. This God raising heaven and earth's brain is indeed not bad. Interesting. Meanwhile, Yi Hua was also thinking about how to get back at God raising heaven and earth, and how to make God raising heaven and earth disheartened. Directly show my strength in front of God raising heaven and earth? Too low. This isn't my style at all. Right now I am playing with my brain. In the blink of an eye, another month passed. The voices of exterminating Voidless Realm seemed to have lessened by a lot, because there was no way to exterminate Voidless Realm, and they couldn't even find the place to exterminate Voidless Realm. Furthermore, no one dared to go to the desert, it was too dangerous, and people could die at any moment. Facing this kind of helplessness, everyone was helpless. However, another matter diverted everyone's attention, and that was the sudden appearance of a female demon who specialized in killing men. This caused the men to not dare to go out anymore. Furthermore, the situation was becoming more and more intense, and the influence of the situation was also becoming bigger and bigger. As the Peace Association and Justice Alliance, they definitely had to take action to deal with this woman. However, the people that were sent out basically never returned. The 2 organizations were having a headache. The female demon was simply too strong. This kind of action angered Li Hun even more, to the point where he started killing every man he saw on the streets. It was fine if a man walked alone, but as long as there was a woman beside him, he would be killed without saying anything. Li Hun was simply ferocious to the extreme. At this time, the single men sighed in admiration. It is so good to be single. Why do I have to look for a girlfriend? Look at those men who have girlfriends, all of them died. How pitiful. Yi Hua naturally knew about this kind of thing, and he completely let it go. However, as the Empress of Voidless Realm, she had the responsibility to get rid of these people. How could Yi Hua possibly allow Dong Huang Baiji to act recklessly? This demoness was a bargaining chip that Yi Hua could use to teach heaven and earth a lesson. It would have been fine if Dong Huang Baiji didn't go and help heaven and earth, But Dong Huang Baiji still went and captured heaven and earth. However, this also caused Dong Huang Baiji to be a bit angry, and she had been ignoring Yi Hua for the past 3 days. Yi Hua couldn't be bothered to go and coax Yi Hua. If I were to go and coax Yi Hua from now on, wait for me to think clearly about this problem. Yi Hua, look, Baiji hasn't eaten for an entire day. Go and coax her. Qingye said tenderly while sitting in Yi Hua's embrace. Yi Hua snorted coldly, then lightly caressed Qingye's beautiful hair and said faintly, "Since she is so disobedient, why are you coaxing her? Baiji is pregnant and her belly is big. Even if you don't care about the big one, you have to care about the little one. Besides, pregnant women are a little emotional. You have to understand." "That's right." Qingye persuaded Yi Hua attentively. "I reckon that in the past, I would never have thought that I would have to ask my man to coax another woman." After thinking about it, Yi Hua felt that what Qingye said was right. No matter what, both of them are carrying my bloodline. It is normal for my temper to be a bit bad. Looking at her husband's expression, Qingye knew what to do. She stood up and took out a bowl of porridge. "Here, properly coax him." Speaking up for others, Yi Hua said petulantly. Qingye laughed tenderly, then pinched onto her husband's cheek. "Isn't it all for the sake of your harem?" Hee. Can 2 still be counted as a harem? If you have the capability, then go and find 7 or 8 more for me. Only then can that be called a harem. Yi Hua. Qingye placed her hands on her waist and looked like she was about to get angry. Yi Hua snorted lightly. "Would I, the supreme overlord, bother with a woman? Go and coax my wife. This is the last time I will coax my wife. Next time, don't even think about letting me coax you. I am also a man with dignity." Walking into the Empress's bedroom, Yi Hua saw that the Empress was currently sitting on the chair and daydreaming. "What a foolish woman. She is definitely thinking about me." Cough. Yi Hua coughed lightly, reminding Dong Huang Baiji that I, the Supreme Overlord, have arrived. Humph. Dong Huang Baiji snorted and completely ignored Yi Hua. "Yo, this little temper is quite big. Do you believe that I, the Supreme Overlord, am going to smash the porridge?" Yi Hua placed the porridge that was in his hand beside the Empress, then said gravely, "Drink it." Dong Huang Baiji immediately turned her head around and refused to look at Yi Hua. "Is this the attitude you use to coax your wife?" Looking at his wife's attitude, Yi Hua seemed to have made up his mind. Yi Hua lightly held onto Dong Huang Baiji's delicate hand. The latter immediately prepared to counterattack, but when she saw Yi Hua's expression, her face was filled with astonishment. Right now, Yi Hua's expression was one that no one had seen before. Chapter 627. Yi Hua, do you still have a lot of enemies? Dong Huang Baiji asked curiously. In the past, she had heard Yi Hua mention a few enemies, but this time, Yi Hua said it in front of her. Yi Hua patted onto Dong Huang Baiji's face. "All right, I will tell you too when the time comes." Yi Hua was thinking, if I were to reveal my true form in front of Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji, what kind of expression would they have? I reckon that they would directly faint from fright. Husband, tell me. Dong Huang Baiji immediately began acting coquettishly, hooking her curiosity out. To actually not tell me anymore. Yi Hua is truly becoming more and more naughty. Yi Hua pinched onto the Empress's chin and said with a smile, "When the 2 of you serve me together, I will tell you too." "Aw, pervert, I'm going to ignore you." Dong Huang Baiji snorted, then left her husband's embrace and went to deal with Voidless Realms matters. Yi Hua did not chase after her. Today's mission to coax his wife has ended. I finally solved the problem of the Empress. After walking out of the Empress's bedroom, Yi Hua stopped his footsteps and looked at his sister-in-law's bedroom. Yi Hua decided to go in and take a look at Yutong. Recently, this sister-in-law seems to be very depressed and listless. Right after walking into the bedroom, Yi Hua saw Qing Yutong, who was in the garden. Qing Yutong was wearing a green long skirt and holding onto her small but while staring at Voidless Realms sky. That exquisite chin, spotlessly white skin, and that sexy jade neck, she is simply tempting Yi Hua's nerves. Facing this sister-in-law that hasn't been developed yet, Yi Hua chose to avoid meeting her, in case he couldn't control himself and did her. If that were to happen, Qingye would definitely fight it out with him. However, This Yutong is truly becoming more and more beautiful, as if she is waiting for a man to develop her. Qing Yutong naturally knew that brother-in-law came, and thus, she put on this pose. Humph, humph. Wouldn't brother-in-law be infatuated with her? Right now, every time he sees me, he would leave as if he is a flower. This is too vexing. In the past, you would often spank other people's butt, but now, you don't even do it. What kind of brother-in-law are you? You have already spanked your sister-in-law's butt, and now, you want to just pat your butt and leave? Seeing that Yihua still did not have any reaction, Qing Yutong turned her head around and looked towards Yihua, then revealed out a smile, and her pair of beautiful eyes curved into crescent moons. Brother-in-law, right now, whenever Yihua looked at Qing Yutong's face, he would have an impulse. Recently, I am not allowed to touch both of my wives, and I am truly sullen. If I were to really do anything to my sister-in-law, then the blame will be on the two of them. Yutong, it's so fun. After finished speaking, Yihua prepared to turn around and leave. Qing Yutong pouted her small mouth. What does brother-in-law mean by this? Is he playing hard to get? All right, brother-in-law, you've succeeded. Qing Yutong could be seen disappearing from her original spot, and in an instant, she blocked Yihua's path and stared fixedly at Yihua's eyes. To be honest, Yihua was a bit lacking in confidence. Back then, I said that I was going to do something to my sister-in-law, but in the end, I was left to the cold until now, as if I was banished to the cold palace. Quickly go and play, don't stop me. Yihua's gaze focused, seemingly wanting to scare his sister-in-law away. Qing Yutong spread open both of her arms. Brother-in-law, if you leave today, I will tell big sister that you spanked my butt. Qing Yutong. How dare you? I, the supreme overlord, was actually threatened by my sister-in-law. How can I do that? In the entire world, who dares to threaten me? Even my own wife doesn't dare to. I am just courageous. What do you want to do? Qing Yutong stiffened up. Move aside. Yihua shouted out lightly. Qing Yutong transformed into a gust of fragrant wind and immediately pounced into Yihua's embrace, giving out her first kiss. Yihua was a bit stupefied. This sister-in-law is not acting according to the norm. To actually forcefully kiss me, outstanding men are like this, there's no helping it. After a long while, the two of them separated. Yihua put on a cold look and said in a deep voice, Qing Yutong, do you know what you are doing? Humph, I know that brother-in-law, you are pushing me back. Yihua. So awkward, my temper is indeed a bit heavy recently. Looking at brother-in-law's awkward look, Qing Yutong asked sneakily, Brother-in-law, is sister-in-law's first kiss sweet? I still have a lot of first kisses, all of them belong to brother-in-law. This is simply a crazy hint. This sister-in-law is becoming more and more mischievous. All right, don't let your big sister see it. Yihua's tone eased up a bit, but in his heart, he felt that it was very exciting. No wonder so many men want to have a clandestine love affair, so it is this kind of feeling, not bad. Qing Yutong seemed to know what brother-in-law was thinking. Brother-in-law, do you feel that it is very exciting? Exciting your head. Yihua stretched out his hand and smacked onto Qing Yutong's butt. Oh, brother-in-law, why did you smack my butt again, and it is so heavy too? Not being honest. Qing Yutong didn't care so much, she just liked her brother-in-law. She immediately held onto Yihua's neck and kissed onto his butt. Yihua didn't seem to resist, and he even started to stroke onto Qing Yutong's butt. Qing Yutong, this girl who had never been touched by Yihua before, immediately felt like she didn't want to be touched anymore. Following that, her body slightly trembled, and the entire world seemed to have become boring. Chapter 628. Yihua nodded his head then said, Actually, this idea of yours is not bad, after all, we are family. Right after Yihua finished speaking, he felt two unkind gazes. Damn it, Qingya was indeed tricking me. I actually naively believed it, I am still too honest. You want to hide this little trick of yours from me? Do you think that I don't know? I just probed you a bit and I found out. Yihua hurriedly explained. Being henpecked doesn't exist. I am just maintaining the harmony of the family. Qingya snorted, then walked into her little sister's bedroom. Yihua let out a sigh of relief. This Qingya is becoming more and more mischievous. Speaking of which, that fellow Lulu has two identical twins. As a leader, I can't fall behind. Although Qing Ya and Qing Yutong aren't twins, the expression between their brows is still very similar. If they can be together, with the addition of the Empress, the scene would definitely be very exciting. I seem to have a new target. However, this is a long-term plan. I should first deal with the current matter. This time, I have to teach Qing Tian a lesson. After gathering his subordinates, Yi Hua decided to have a small meeting. The location was naturally the lounge of Leisure Bar. I want to go to the toilet, but I can't stand there anymore. Furthermore, there are more ladies right now. It would be very inconvenient for me to go to the men's toilet for the meeting. Subordinate pays respect to your honor. All of the subordinates shouted out respectfully. Yi Hua nodded his head. I feel rather comfortable hearing such words. Recently, there is a demoness that is stirring up trouble outside. Yi Hua sat on the bar counter and said faintly while smoking a cigarette. Lai Gu immediately stood out, then cupped his hands and said, Your Honor, subordinate is willing to get rid of the evil for the people. Who told you that I am going to get rid of the evil? Yi Hua glared at Lai Gu. I haven't even finished speaking, and you already ran out. Lai Gu immediately retreated a bit awkwardly. Originally, I wanted to show off in front of His Honor, but I didn't expect that I would be scolded by His Honor instead. Yi Hua took a puff of the cigarette and said gravely, This demoness is indeed a bit strong, but she won't be able to defend against a sneak attack. Therefore, I want one of you to go and protect her. Who is willing to go? The entire lounge became quiet. Not a single man stood out. The reason was very simple. They were all men with girlfriends or wives. How could they protect a woman? Then their wives would be jealous. In the lounge, Zishan said softly, Yi Hong, this is a good chance, quickly accept the mission. Yi Hong still didn't know about Zishan's thoughts, and every single day, she would crazily probe Zishan. Even when she went out for a stroll at night, she would point at the women around her and ask, Are they pretty? Right, Yi Hong is very good at martial arts. Zishan, the person that I want to protect my entire life is you. The perfect answer. Yi Hong was in awe of herself. Zishan was very satisfied with her husband's reply, and a smile blossomed on her beautiful face. However, only Blood Devil and Fuchsia did not have a girlfriend. Blood Demon didn't get close to women. Furthermore, he had now been promoted to the management level of the bar, and he was able to manage the bar very well. Yi Hua's pocket money was also getting more and more. Do said, Do, but now, Yukio had become smarter. He obediently stood at the back of the group, refusing to speak no matter what, and refusing to accept any quests. It wasn't that Do Fuchsia didn't want to accept it, it was because he had also heard of the demoness. She was extremely savage and killed every man she saw. Just as Do Fuchsia was thinking, his left hand was suddenly pulled up by someone. Upon seeing that, LV Liang immediately cried out in surprise, Do Fuchsia, good job! Lai Gu said, as expected of a newcomer, his courage is commendable. Wei Chong nodded his head. As a newcomer, he actually dares to accept the mission. He is indeed courageous. Do Fuchsia, good job. Do your best to complete His Honor's mission. Do Fuchsia was stupefied. Just now, my left hand seemed to have been pulled up by spiritual energy. It's definitely them. This is too much, too much. I don't want to go. Do Fuchsia rushed forward and knelt on the ground. Your Honor! Before Do Fuchsia could finish, Yi Hua nodded his head. Seeing that you are so proactive, I will hand this difficult mission over to you. Do Fuchsia. What are you still standing there for? Thank you, Your Honor. Wei Chong said. Do Fuchsia was actually stupefied. Do Fuchsia has never felt such despair before. That woman doesn't even blink when she kills men. Aren't I just sending myself to death? Yi Hua naturally knew that Do Fuchsia wasn't that woman's opponent. Yi Hua nodded his head towards Wei Chong, and a lump of black fog came out from Wei Chang's finger, which immediately drilled into Do Fuchsia's nose. Meanwhile, Do Fuchsia's body trembled, and soon after, he felt that it was boring, and he even rolled his eyes. After settling this matter, Yi Hua's gaze became serious. The subordinates didn't dare to be careless, and they respectfully listened to Yi Hua. I have decided to return 5 years later. In these 5 years, I hope that you all will study hard and use books and knowledge to enrich yourselves. When the subordinates heard that, they shouted out in unison, Knowledge makes me happy, learning makes me grow. For such a slogan to come out from the mouths of this group of people, it was indeed hard to believe. They were just like a group of demons being forced by Yi Hua to attend high school. However, to be able to hear that his honor had set a time, the people from 7 Deadly Sins were still very excited. Although they didn't understand what his honor was going to do, seeing how serious his honor was, they knew that he was definitely going to do something big. Immediately, Yi Hong's body became hot, and he wished that he could go right now. Yi Hong also saw hope. This way, I will be able to display my masculinity and make Zishan worship me. Disperse, go back and prepare. Yi Hua said faintly. Yes. In an instant, everyone left, leaving behind only Dou Fusher, who was lying on the ground and foaming at the mouth, and the blood demon. Towards the strength that his honor bestowed upon Dou Fusher, the blood demon didn't feel envious at all. On the contrary, he was very satisfied with his current life. Those fights and killing outside are truly not suitable for me, the blood demon. So, it turns out that cooking and bartending are my true interests, only now did I realize it. Yi Hua looked at the blood demon and said, properly learn how to cook, in the future, I will leave my meals to you. Upon hearing that, the blood demon was overjoyed. What kind of glory is it to be able to cook for a supreme overlord? To go and bring harm to the common people? Subordinate obeys. Subordinate will definitely cook the most delicious food in the world for your honor to enjoy. Good. I will remember what you said. Properly practice for the next 5 years. Yes. The blood demon felt that the blood in his entire body was boiling. This is simply even more exciting than fighting. With a large stride, the blood demon rushed into the kitchen at the back of the house. The corner of Yi Hua's mouth twitched slightly. Don't judge a person by their appearance. So it turns out that the blood demon isn't someone who will bring harm to the common people. After taking a look at Dou Fusher, who was lying on the ground and foaming at the mouth, Yi Hua covered his face with his hand. This Dou Fusher might be the dumbest person in my group. Chapter 629. Woo! Yun Lang suddenly let out a cry. Yi Hua let out a deep sigh. These two are really stupid. After drinking a cup of wine, Yi Hua returned to Voidless Realm. The children still need me to teach them. 5 years later, the children will also have to carry my banner. However, even after 5 years, Yi Yan was still only 5 years old. A 5-year-old kid was going to be thrown into the outside world by his father to train. Thinking about it, it was really pitiful. When Dou Fusher woke up, he was stupefied. Looking at his surroundings, his honor had already left. I feel that my life has lost its color. His honor actually told me to go and protect a demoness. Is he joking with me? Standing up, Dou Fusher saw that blood demon was carefully wiping the glass. That focused look made Dou Fusher's scalp go numb. Brother blood demon, can I have a glass of wine? Dou Fusher sighed softly. Why was he given such a mission every single time? It was the kind that no one wanted to accept. Blood Devil glanced at Dou Fusher and lightly said, "Pay up." It can't be. Brother Blood Demon, we're a team after all. Floating Dough couldn't believe it. They were a team, so why did they have to collect money? Blood Demon said in a deep voice, "This is his honor's order. Even if his honor's wife wants to drink wine, she needs to pay for it." Floating World. Does his honor lack money that much? Dou Fusher suddenly thought of a good idea. I don't know if bribing his honor will work or not. I can try it another day. Forget it, I'll go complete the quest. Dou Fusher said in a low voice. One mustn't be careless when it comes to the task that his honor has given to them. If they don't complete the task, it's very likely that they will be kicked out by his honor. I, Dou Fusher, am also a man who wants face. How can I disappoint his honor's order? Walking out of Leisure Bar, Dou Fusher arrived at the side of the street. He sat in his 90 Santana and took out his phone. He only needed to watch the news to know where the demoness was. After searching for a while, Dou Fusher had already confirmed her whereabouts. She was killing men in Nanyang City. How terrifying. Furthermore, when he saw the picture of the female devil, Dou Fusher felt as though he had seen it somewhere before. He suddenly recalled that day. He divined that he was going to die. Could it be because of this? That was close. I almost died. It seemed that the rumors on the internet were right. This female devil only killed men with girlfriends. Dou Fushi unhurriedly started the Santana under his butt, and a cloud of black mist emerged from his butt. Then, there was a dong 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 sound, a little like a tractor. When they arrived at Nanyang City, it was already night time. Dou Fushi first went to eat egg fried rice and a basket of steamed dumplings to fill his stomach. After everything was prepared, he went to find the demoness. After experiencing the strength of his body, Dou Fushi felt as if he had been reborn. Flying to the sky was not that strenuous, and he could even jump from one place to another. Then why did I drive here just now? I was so stupid. Dou Fushi was jumping around with a look of curiosity on his face. Of course, there was also excitement. Who would have thought that his big brother's big brother would impart such a powerful technique to him? Thank you, Your Honor, for your great kindness. I, Dou Fushi, will do my utmost until the day I die. I will definitely protect little big sister well and not let her suffer even a bit of harm. However, at this time, outside the suburbs of Nanyang City, Drifting Soul was ambushed. To be more precise, it was the poison that came from the ancient times. It was terrifying. In order to get rid of this departed soul, Qing Tiandi had put in quite a bit of effort, but he was still nowhere to be found. The Righteous Alliance led by Wang Debao and Bai Cixin were present. At this moment, Li Hun had been temporarily sealed by the primordial celestial artifact, and there were various scars on her body. Her originally beautiful lips had turned black, and her entire body was emitting an aura of death. If he hadn't been poisoned beforehand, how could he have been sealed by an ancient divine artifact? That milk tea woman was so vicious. I detach my soul to kill stinky men for you, and you women actually bite the hand that feeds you. Wang Debao looked at the trapped Li Hun and said in a deep voice, Honey, this woman can't be killed even with an ancient divine artifact. Bai Cixin was also very surprised. He was first poisoned by the ancient divine weapon, and now he was trapped by the ancient divine weapon, but he was still alive. It was still healing, and it wouldn't take long for him to recover. As expected of someone who had reincarnated, he was indeed very strong. Qing Tiandi still wants to live, seems like he won't be able to. Bai Cixin let out a light sigh. Qing Tiandi wanted to subdue this woman. After all, he was currently lacking fighters, and this woman's strength was very strong. Of course, Qing Tiandi also said that if he really couldn't do it, then he would just kill her. Wang Debao felt that he could still fight for one last time, and he shouted out to Li Hun, As long as you obey us, we will let you go. A green cauldron could be seen floating above Li Hun's head, and the cauldron was emitting a terrifying aura. A brilliant golden cage had trapped Li Hun, and numerous golden whips were currently lashing Li Hun's body. Every time one of the whips lashed, an astonishing airwave would be emitted. However, Li Hun's expression didn't change at all, and even though she was poisoned, she still persisted. Humph! Stinky man! Wait for me to come out, I will kill you first. Li Hun slowly raised her head and stared fixedly at Wang Debao. Wang Debao didn't doubt that this woman indeed had the strength to kill him. The difference in strength was too big. Stop trying to persuade me, it's useless. Bai Cixin's beautiful eyes turned cold, and a spear appeared in her hands. When the spear appeared, thunder and lightning rumbled, and the sound of thunder resounded throughout the world. Electric currents could be seen flickering around the spear, and the subordinate standing behind Bai Cixin could clearly feel that the spear was different from the others. It turns out that the Justice and Order Alliance is so powerful that they can even subdue this demoness. When Li Hun saw the spear in Bai Cixin's hands, her gaze became a bit serious. Demonic woman! I am going to ask you one last time. Without waiting for Bai Cixin to finish speaking, Li Hun snorted coldly. Sooner or later, you will die in a man's hands. Fine. Then, I will let this Godslayer send you back. Bai Cixin shouted as she raised the Godslayer high in the air with her right hand and threw it out. When the Godslayer flew out, the white electric currents seemed like they were going to run through the ground, and the dazzling light caused everyone to close their eyes. Li Hun really wanted to struggle free, but the ancient godly weapon's poison seemed to have been specially made for her, and coupled with the pressure from the cauldron above her head, she wasn't able to struggle free in a short period of time. As for this Godslayer... Puff! Without any suspense, the Godslayer pierced through Li Hun's body, and a big hole appeared in Li Hun's lower abdomen. This was the effect of a chain reaction. As long as the ancient godly weapon was used correctly, it was entirely possible to kill a powerful expert. Just like Li Hun, if she wasn't poisoned, she wouldn't have been suppressed by the cauldron, and if she wasn't suppressed by the cauldron, she wouldn't have been pierced through by the Godslayer. Li Hun immediately spurted out a large amount of blood, and the blood flowing out of her lower abdomen was even more so. Li Hun's entire body instantly became a lot more listless, and the color on her face also became less and less. Chapter 630. The followers cheered when they saw the female devil's appearance. The Justice and Order Alliance once again defended the justice of the world. At this moment, two figures landed. Space-Time Branch is taking over. Wang Debao and Bai Cixin furrowed their brows slightly when they saw the two of them land on the ground. They had heard of the Space-Time Branch from Qing Tian. Xiao Yi used to be a field agent of the Space-Time Branch, so he knew what the Space-Time Branch was in charge of. It was to catch those who had been reborn. But, King want to catch me? Why didn't you show up before? Now that I'm beaten half to death, you're shameless to the extreme. The followers behind them were confused. It was the first time they heard about the Space-Time Branch. Wang Debao looked at the two. One of them was obviously the boss. He had an imposing appearance, long hair, and a mole under the corner of his mouth. Wang Debao was relieved. She wasn't as handsome as him. The mole had played the role of finishing touch and ruined her entire face. The one next to him was not bad looking. He was Wu Lu, Xiao Yi's former boss. The other one with the mole was the director of the Space-Time Branch. Shi Zhengao. Director Shi. Why did they appear at this time? Just as Wang Debao had guessed, they were beaten to this state. Such a powerful woman couldn't be touched by the Space-Time Branch. They could only monitor her a little. But now they didn't need to monitor her. They could just turn on the phone and know where she was. This woman was too arrogant. You can go now. Wu Lu took a step forward and said to Bai Cixin and Wang Debao expressionlessly. It was as if he was the boss here. Before Bai Cixin could speak, the brothers of the Justice and Order Alliance disagreed. Fuck, who are you? Let us go. Who do you think you are? What bullshit Space-Time Branch? I have never heard of it. Shi Zhengao's face didn't change. He stood with his hands behind his back. It was as if nothing could make him emotional. Wu Lu couldn't be like this. His face darkened. A huge surge of spiritual energy suddenly spread out. He waved his hand in the air. A huge astral wind engulfed the underlings and sent them flying. How dare you? How dare you shout in front of the chief? Wu Lu angrily shouted. If it wasn't for the rules, he would have killed these people. Bai Cixin and Wang Debao stood firmly on their feet. If both of them were sent flying, it would really be embarrassing. Shi Zhengao suddenly patted Wu Liu on the shoulder. Don't be so angry. It's not good to scare the children. Wu Lu respectfully lowered his head and retreated behind Shi Zhengao. You must be the boss of the Justice Alliance. Let me introduce myself. I am the director of the Space-Time Branch, Shi Zhengao. We have been keeping an eye on this fugitive for a long time. We planned to arrest her tonight, but we didn't expect something like this to happen. Shi Zhengao's words sounded good. At least to Bai Cixin and Wang Debao, he had given them enough face. But Wang Debao did not look too good. Shi Zhengao, why was this name so unique? Could it be very high in history? Why not call him Shi Zhenchang? Because Wang Debao had to hold back his laughter, his face looked very twisted, as if he was about to hit someone. When Wang Debao and Wang Debao saw Wang Debao's expression, it seemed like they were about to make a move. Right at this moment, Li Hun snorted coldly. Do you really think that you can kill us like this? Wishful thinking. You damned men, I will use your blood to wipe my shoes later on. Shi Zhengao wrinkled his brows and stretched out his index finger. Baiyu! A green ray of light shot out from his finger and directly penetrated through Li Hun's right shoulder. Li Hun, who was already heavily injured, once again received another injury. Shi Zhengao said lightly, You still haven't realized your current situation. Despicable! Li Hun shouted out weakly. Another green ray of light shot out from Shi Zhengao's finger and penetrated through Li Hun's left shoulder as well. At first glance, both of Li Hun's arms were hanging down powerlessly. But even after receiving such a heavy injury, Li Hun did not make any sound. From this, it could be seen just how strong this woman's willpower was. In actuality, Li Hun just didn't want to show her weakness in front of that stinky man. In the past, it was precisely because of this that she was killed by that pair of adulterers. Never again. Shi Jingyao's actions slightly shocked Bai Cixin and Wang Debao. The director of this space-time branch was indeed very powerful. Even they had to use an ancient artifact to hurt Li Hun. But this director could do it so easily. Could it be that what he said was true? What happened tonight was just a coincidence. In fact, it was not. If Li Hun was at full strength, Shi Jingyao would not be able to do anything. Although he could fight with Li Hun, it would be a great risk for him. Shi Jingyao would not put himself in danger, nor would he do something that he was not confident about. In the end, it was just that he couldn't beat Li Hun. But when Li Hun was injured, Shi Jingyao could completely suppress her, so it could be said that Shi Jingyao was still capable of hurting Li Hun. Just like just now. Bai Cixin was also thinking about a problem now. This woman was very useful to the Justice and Order Alliance, even if she was a corpse. If such a news spread, the Justice and Order Alliance's status would rise to a higher level. After all, this woman had killed so many people, which had already caused public anger. If she handed it over just like that, Bai Cixin would be unwilling. Besides, there were so many people watching. Once she handed it over, where would she put her face? Director Shi, you also know that this woman has killed a lot of people this month. I have to answer to everyone, Bai Cixin said in a sweet voice. This credit was obtained by her and her husband risking their lives. How could he just take her away just because he wanted her? How was that possible? Shi Jingyao did not refute and agreed. Indeed, the appearance of this woman has caused a lot of losses. So, it doesn't seem appropriate for me to hand it over to you just like that. Bai Cixin was not afraid of this director. She had an ancient artifact in her hands, and with her husband's strength, she could still fight them. If God supporting heaven and earth came, the situation would be better. However, Bai Cixin was not sure whether God supporting heaven and earth would come, because this man was too scheming. She had no idea what he was thinking all day long. It's indeed inappropriate, but this woman is also very useful to me. I hope Miss Bai can understand. Shi Jingyao also had his own difficulties. Recently, he had to show some results. This was because he heard that Ji Yang from the Space Administration was inspecting the work downstairs, and it was very likely that he would come here. If he did not have a good result, it would be very embarrassing. The appearance of Li Hun was Shi Jingyao's goal. In addition to what she had done recently, Shi Jingyao was sure that someone would go deal with it. When the time came, he would come out and ask for her. Chapter 631. Bai Cixin could sense Shi Jingyao's determination to win the battle. Shi Jingyao could also feel that if he wanted to get this woman, he would have to pay a price. It all depended on the situation. Bai Cixin smiled lightly. Bureau Chief Shi, why don't you understand me? After all, to catch this woman, I lost a lot. Then Miss Bai, how can you let me take this woman away? Do you want to fight with us? Shi Jingyao said softly. There was a serious threat in his words. If they really fought, they might not be his opponent. But Shi Jingyao didn't want to fight. After all, the time branch had rules. What he did now was already against the rules. If it was brought up, he wouldn't do it. But it was still fine to bluff people. How could they know these rules? What Shi Jingyao didn't expect was that Xiao Yi had unintentionally mentioned these rules. He didn't know if Wang Debao took it to heart, but Bai Cixin remembered it. Bureau Chief Shi, what you're doing shouldn't be against the rules, right? Bai Cixin was brimming with confidence. In fact, she wasn't weak from the beginning. This sentence made both Shi Jingyao and Wu Lu confused for a moment. How did this woman know about the space-time branch? Bai Cixin added and smiled. Don't be too surprised. I have a friend who is your field agent. He told me about your situation. Who is it? How dare you reveal the time branch? Wu Lu shouted in a deep voice. Too bold. Don't you know you signed a confidentiality agreement? I'm afraid you won't be able to find him. He is Xiao Yi. Hearing Bai Cixin's words, Wu Lu's face turned serious. Of course Shi Zhengyao knew Xiao Yi because he was also one of the reborn. His file was there. But he didn't expect that as a reborn, Xiao Yi would become a field agent of the Time Branch. It seemed that this Wu Lu did something behind his back. Wu Lu did hide it from Shi Zhengyao. After all, Xiao Yi's strength was there. He was the most suitable fighter. But he didn't expect that Xiao Yi didn't repay his kindness. He even revealed the rules of the Time Branch. It seemed that he was wrong about Xiao Yi. When he was beaten up like that, he recruited him, but he used this kind of method to repay him. Damn it, it's good that he died. Miss Bai, what are your conditions? How can you give this woman to us? Shi Zhengyao gave in. He did not intend to use force to snatch her, so he decided to trade. Bai Cixin felt that this was an opportunity. If there was something good to exchange, she would naturally accept it. However, he didn't know Shi Zhengyao's bottom line, so he could only say, Director Shi, how much do you think this woman is worth? Shi Zhengyao sneered in his heart. This woman was really smart. She actually wanted to trick him. What did the space-time branch have the most? It was the primordial spirit. Even if it was the worst primordial spirit, they would probably want it. After all, anyone who could cultivate an essence soul was an expert. However, Wang Debao and Bai Cixin had not cultivated their nascent divinities. Shi Zhengyao stretched out his palm, and a golden sphere radiated light. When the primordial spirit was revealed, there was an uproar. Bai Cixin and Wang Debao also felt that this thing's energy was enormous. For the current him, it was a good thing. However, Bai Cixin also knew that this was probably not Shi Zhengyao's bottom line. What is this? Wang Debao asked curiously. Drifting Soul spat out a mouthful of blood. What a bunch of idiots. They can't even recognize a primordial spirit. A primordial spirit. Bai Cixin and Wang Debao did not expect this to be a primordial spirit. It was indeed very powerful. I wonder if the two of you are satisfied? I want to exchange this primordial spirit for this woman. Shi Zhengyao could see the greed in their eyes. This was good news. Wang Debao did not say anything. It was all up to his wife. He was not good at this. Bai Cixin hid her surprised expression and said softly, A primordial spirit is enough to exchange for this woman? This woman is only worth this much? At this time, Drifting Soul suddenly let out a low laugh. Idiot, primordial spirits are also divided into high and low levels. This primordial spirit is the worst. Shi Zhengyao's face darkened. He stretched out his finger again, and a green light pierced through Drifting Soul's chest. This time, Drifting Soul almost died. Now, he did not even have the strength to speak. Although he was already facing death, Drifting Soul's bodily functions were quickly recovering. This was the self-healing ability of a strong expert. If it was not for the giant cauldron suppression, his injury should have recovered faster. After hearing this, Bai Cixin chuckled. Bureau Chief Shi, is there a difference between high and low levels? Miss Bai, how trustworthy can a witch's words be? Shi Zhengyao chuckled. In his heart, he wanted to kill this witch for talking too much. Bai Cixin sighed. Then it's difficult for me. After all, you know how useful this woman is. Miss Bai is really greedy. Shi Zhengyao said in a low voice. Another primordial spirit appeared in his hand, and the pressure it emitted was much stronger than before. Shi Zhengyao said in a low voice. Miss Bai, 2 primordial spirits for this woman, but I also want you to know that I am the bureau chief of the space-time branch. This was a serious warning from Shi Zhengyao. Don't push your luck. Stop when you're ahead is what you should do. Of course Bai Cixin knew this. What she wanted to do was to squeeze out more profits, and now she was very successful. The purpose of this which was to increase the prestige of the Righteous and Righteous Alliance, but the Righteous and Righteous Alliance was still heaven and earth, not Bai Cixin's. But this primordial spirit could be used by itself to increase its own strength. So this trade was definitely worth it. As for the people behind them, they could just kill them later. Of course, this matter couldn't be known by heaven and earth. One should know that heaven and earth seem to value it a lot. Otherwise, they wouldn't have given out so many ancient artifacts. Bai Cixin stretched out her slender hand. Shi Zhengyao laughed and raised his hand slightly, and the 2 primordial spirits flew into Bai Cixin's hand. Miss Bai is indeed a smart woman. Shi Jingao said lightly. Actually, it was not a big deal to exchange for two primordial spirits like this, but Bai Cixin's attitude made Shi Jingao a little unhappy. Bai Cixin said in a sweet voice, Bureau Chief Shi should know how to use them. Shi Jingao heaved a sigh of relief. He really wanted to give this woman a slap. As Shi Jingao waved his hand, the two primordial spirits sank into Bai Cixin and Wang Debao's forehead. A fierce pressure suddenly bloomed, and the golden light between their eyebrows shone brightly, and it did not subside for a long time. After a long time, it finally calmed down. Wang Debao clenched his fists. Compared to himself just now, it was simply a complete change. Bai Cixin's face turned cold, and she slowly stretched out her slender hand towards her subordinates. These people knew something they shouldn't know. So there could only be one result. Chapter 632. When Bai Cixin stretched out her palm, everyone felt a strange spiritual pressure that appeared beside them, as if something was pressing down on them. Alliance Master Bai. Alliance Master Bai. What are you doing? Alliance Master Bai, don't kill us. That's right, we don't know anything, don't kill us. Bai Cixin wasn't a soft-hearted woman, she was decisive when it came to killing. This point was a bit stronger than Qingya and Donghuang Baizhi. If Qingya and Donghuang Baizhi were here, they wouldn't kill their subordinates. Along with Bai Cixin's clenching of her hand, the subordinates immediately exploded and died. Feeling the surge of power, Bai Cixin was very satisfied. Just now that powerful being entered my body, I am much more powerful than my husband. Of course, Wang Debao wouldn't mind this point, because the more powerful his wife was, the more he would feel a sense of accomplishment. Why would he feel a sense of accomplishment? When his wife eats popping candy, that would be a man's sense of accomplishment. Good move. Shi Jingao even applauded. In actuality, even if Bai Cixin didn't make a move, he would have made a move. After all, these people had seen and heard too much. Bai Cixin revealed a light smile. Bureau Chief Shi, this woman is yours. After finished speaking, Bai Cixin planned to leave with her husband. Right now they still can't go and meet Qing Tiandi. The spiritual pressure is very unstable. I have to properly control it. I can't let Qing Tiandi see through anything. Miss Bai, wait a moment. Shi Jingao suddenly had an idea. This idea was actually pretty much the same as Wu Lu's idea. Bureau Chief Shi, is there anything else? Bai Cixin turned around and asked curiously. I wonder if I can cooperate with Miss Bai. Cooperate? Bai Cixin was puzzled. She immediately started calculating the pros and cons. Shi Jingao just wanted to use Bai Cixin's identity to do things for him. This way, the pressure on the space-time branch would be reduced a bit. Those field agents below them were still relatively weak. As for why they didn't distribute the primordial spirit, this was also the rule of the space-time branch. If the people below them rebelled, it would be even more troublesome to deal with them. Shi Jingao nodded his head and said lightly, in return, I will also provide some help. Bai Cixin silently calculated in his heart. The ship Sky supporting Earth was very unstable, and he really should find a partner to cooperate with. This space-time branch seemed to be a good choice. This primordial spirit could even be released. How bad could it be? The most important thing was that this was a cooperation. Compared to being with Sky lifting Earth, they were subordinates. There was a difference between the two. This was also a way out. What does Miss Bai think? Bai Cixin pretended that she was having a hard time making a decision. She was putting on a show for Shi Zhen. After all, she could not agree so quickly. What kind of help can Director Shi give me? Bai Cixin asked curiously. As long as you help me, I will naturally do my best to help you. This is cooperation. Then how can I trust you? Bai Cixin asked in return. Shi Jingao rubbed onto his sideburns and said eerily, I think, if I were to kill the two of you right now, no one would know, right? Bai Cixin and Wang Debao's faces darkened. Shi Jingao was right. All right. After a long while, Bai Cixin finally agreed. It was better to have one more friend than one more enemy. Miss Bai is a straightforward person. I wish us a happy cooperation. A happy cooperation. The two shook hands and came to a consensus. Go and bring the person over. Shi Jingao said faintly. Tonight's harvest was quite big. Yes. Wu Lu said respectfully. The decision that I made in private caused the director to be at a disadvantage in the negotiation. When I return later, I will definitely be scolded. Bai Cixin and Wang Debao were not in a hurry to leave. After all, they were considered to be partners now. If something unexpected were to happen later on, they still had to help. However, just when the husband and wife thought of something unexpected happened. Ah! A series of ghostly wails rang out from the sky, as if a person falling from a high altitude was crying for help. Wu Lu immediately became vigilant as he raised his head and looked at the night sky. A black figure could be seen flying over at high speed. To be more precise, it was flying over at high speed. Ah! Floating World let out a series of screams. Due to him being too excited, he didn't even know how to land. There's no helping it, I am completely unable to control my strength. Shi Jingyao tightly wrinkled his brows. This black figure was actually flying towards the cauldron. Wang Debao seemed to be able to hear a muffled sound as a piece of meat patty stuck onto the cauldron. As the distance got closer and closer, everyone looked at the scene of the accident curiously. Bang! The black figure crashed onto the cauldron. However, a terrifying pressure immediately spread out in all directions. This was the aura that was emitted out from an ancient godly artifact being smashed. The cauldron in the sky could be seen to be smashed into pieces, and pieces of the cauldron fell onto the ground. Without the restriction of the cauldron, Li Hun fell onto the ground and was unable to move. However, his recovery speed had increased by a lot. The four looked at the scene dumbfoundedly. That black figure actually smashed an ancient godly artifact into pieces. How is this possible? Even Shi Jingyao exclaimed in admiration. An ancient godly artifact is much more powerful than an ancient godly item, and yet, this black figure actually smashed it into pieces with just his physical body. Just how strong is that black figure? Boom! Floating World's entire body smashed onto the ground. The ground beneath the four slightly trembled, and a large crater appeared in front of them. The pitiful Li Hun was very close to Floating World, and thus, Li Hun was nowhere to be seen. If Yi Hua were to find out about this matter, he would definitely feel that there is something wrong with his judgment of people. I asked you to go and save him, yet you buried him instead. As expected, you are even more arrogant than a husky. Floating World laid on the large crater and stared blankly at the sky. I was scared to death, luckily, I didn't die. Sitting up, Floating World checked his body, and discovered that his body was in good condition, not a single piece of his skin had fallen off. However, when I fell onto the ground just now, I seem to have smashed into something, and that thing seems to be very valuable. I hope that I won't have to pay for it. Suddenly, Floating World seemed to have thought of something. I am here to save the big sister, and I clearly sensed that she was here just now. Where is she? Floating World stood up and looked around, but I didn't discover anyone. On the other hand, there are 4 people over there. Floating World felt that I should go and ask them. It will be troublesome if I can't find the big sister. With a light leap, Floating World landed in front of Shi Jingyao and the others. Floating World revealed a smile on his face, and his white teeth looked rather clean. Just that, his clothes were a bit worn out. Did you all see a woman? Is she very beautiful, very fierce, the kind that likes to kill men? Floating World asked curiously with an innocent look on his face. I am just short of saying that I am an honest person. The 4 did not expect that this black figure was actually here to look for the demonic woman. Floating World immediately felt that the situation wasn't good. Wang Debao casually pointed towards a direction. She ran over there. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.